Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie podcast. It might be a Monday, at least it is if you're listening to this episode the day it dropped, but now it's a fun day. In fact, whatever day, ending in Y, that you are listening or watching this podcast, it is now a fun day, because this is the day that we like to get together and talk about movies. But we have a purpose here at the United States of a Movie podcast, because our mission here is to find one movie to define each state in these United States. My name is Ollie Pettigrew. I love movies, as do my two co-hosts. The reason I love to talk about movies is because it's how I relax. I used to do a movie show for HBO and Cinemax in Asia called ePowder Max, where I used to just roast movies, and it's honestly the most fun I ever had with my clothes on, so I decided to do a podcast very much along the same lines. But to help me out, to help get into the nitty-gritty of movies and why they are amazing, I, of course, had to find two of the biggest movie nerds on planet Earth. Let's welcome them back to the show. Will Hirsch, currently sitting in his video store. Will, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Great to be here, talking about movies, moving pictures.
You better believe Rooster Cogburn is going to be featuring in many, many episodes from this point forward.
Just spraying crap in the hair, making them all poofy. Yeah, I'm going to do that for the next 2 hours. Yeah.
Please do. A little sneak peek as to where this episode is going. And of course, we also have to introduce another amazing co-host, Ryan Sander, buddy. Welcome back.
I'm not even going to try and top that. That was flawless. It's great to be here. We got some movies this week, and we're going to talk about them.
an incredible introduction there from Ryan. Incredible.
Yeah. Don't overpromise. Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is like, we've explained that we've been doing this show now for 41 episodes. We've got ourselves a pretty good way through the states. And the thing about it is that now that we're sort of in the New England-y sort of area, or the original part, the 13 colonies, if you will, these places are kind of small. Some of them are very small, and some of them kind of overlap. So we did land on Maryland, but Maryland is very close to Washington. I would say one of these movies borderline close Maryland, one of them specifically Maryland, and one of them is all in on Maryland, and is directed by Tony Scott. So I'll tell you this much. We're going to get into some movies. Why don't we tell everybody the movies that we have brought to the table? Let's do it. Ryan, what was your choice? Which one did you select for us to enjoy this?
Ooh, I picked, once you said that, we were going to do Maryland, I immediately went to one of my favorite Tony Scott classics, Enemy of the State. Starring Will Smith and Gene Hackman.
Yeah, that was a good choice, man. I was very happy about that choice. 1998's Enemy of the State, directed by Tony Scott, like we were saying. And while he was correct there by saying it stars Will Smith and Gene Hackman, it also stars, get ready.
Yeah.
Regina King, John Voight, Gabriel Byrne, Jack Black, Seth Green, Jake Busey, Barry Pepper, Jamie Kennedy, Tom Sizemore, and more. This movie is the who's who of who?
Yeah.
The guys in the van are all future famous people.
Yeah,
all current
John Voight's wife is played by Anna Gunn, who goes on to play Skylar White, and she also was in an episode of Seinfeld. So, a bit of trivia for you.
You are just an IMDb page,
exactly.
Only for her
with a beard.
I do an Anna Gunn podcast after this.
And don't forget, skateboarding legend Jason Lee is also
correct.
5 minutes, which is awesome.
Jason Lee, I forgot, of course, because he gets pancaked.
He pancaked by drunk fire truck driver. Yes.
It's very, very specific. That was a good look. This was a great choice. This was a movie that came out in 1998 and told the crazy, unbelievable, wild, out there story of the world we live in today. It's crazy that the bad guys in this movie are basically talking about the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
After post 9/11, all this shit happened, and it's just the world we live in, and it's wild to watch a movie going, this is fucked up, right?
Yeah. And strangely enough, I think John Voight's birthday in this movie is September 11th.
There was,
right?
It is, Right?
I think you're right, because we were watching going, wait a minute, is that September or is it a November 11th? It was any. This movie was great. Everyone's seen this movie, right?
Oh yeah.
So this is just one
Yeah.
of our Tony Scott
Yeah.
picks.
Mhm.
For sure. I hadn't seen it in a long time. It had been, I
Yeah.
probably hadn't seen it in about 20 years. But watching it again, I'm like, why don't I watch this all the time? It's so good.
It is.
I
I'm really
admit-
annoyed, actually. It's one of those weeks where it was a movie I own on Blu-ray, but I don't have a Blu-ray player at the moment, so I had to rent it.
Eh.
So stupid.
Sucker.
Still worth it.
His Blu-ray player has a crank.
Those
yeah,
old
this was-
school ones.
This was from an era of those other movies. I was thinking of the one that's got like Chris Rock and Anthony Hopkins,
Yeah,
which
that
I can't
movie
remember, where his
shit.
like twin brother
Oh.
dies and then he has to go in there. It's called
Yeah.
Bad Company. I think
Bad
it was
Company.
called.
That movie should have worked, and everything about it was bad.
I remember liking it. I liked
It
it.
was bad. I remember that movie.
Starring
it was
a young
it was
Harvey
another
Specter.
Bruckheimer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it felt like I was like, is this also a Tony Scott movie? But
Directed by Joel Schumacher.
yeah, that's it.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember
need-
really enjoying that movie.
I might need to check it out. I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
seen it. But
I would tell you this much, Will. You do not need to check it out.
I'll just watch Flatliners again. sounds like a
see.
plan.
There
Shot by
you go.
Jan de Bont.
Yandaban.
You're gonna do Joel
I
Schumacher.
like that movie. I have to figure out what state it's in, and I'm gonna force it down your fucking throats.
You know it's good because it's partially filmed in the Czech Republic.
Where all the best movies are filmed.
Rotten, the tomatometer for just out of interest for Bad Company is at 10%. I just remember everything just not working. It was like they tried to make Chris Rock sort of like, let it work with Will Smith. Let's do Chris Rock, and you know what? It didn't work.
How come they haven't done a movie together?
Who, Chris Rock and Will Smith?
That would slap.
Perfect.
Oh, so perfect. As was this movie, interesting. I was getting into it. So the script got polished by a few names, but two of them that stood out for me were Aaron Sorkin and Tony Gilroy.
Mm.
Two
Wow.
legit writers. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's see. And
It
Gene
is a
Hackman,
good script. Yeah.
Gene Hackman is so good. I love him in everything he does. In this particular movie, amazing. But watching it the other day, I was like, he doesn't turn up in this movie for an hour.
Yeah, like
An
yeah,
hour,
minute
and he turns up
55
for
or
2
something.
minutes and then doesn't turn up again for another 10 minutes. I'm like, was he a day player? Did he only do 3 days in this movie?
And yet I remember
Yeah.
every single one of his lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you
He
made a
shows up-
phone call.
Yep.
Yeah. It's almost like a glorified cameo. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
he's really not in a ton of the film, but every moment he's in it, he's just magnetic, and you're just like, wow, he's awesome.
It's almost like they were trying to make a Lego sequel before that became like a huge thing. They're like, let's take
Right.
this iconic character from the 70s, plop him into this modern thing where he's like the fatherly figure where he has to teach the young buck how to do it right. And
Yeah.
but they're like, no, we'll just make him a completely different character with the exact same
Yeah.
personality.
See, I've never seen The Conversation.
Yeah.
So that's
It's really
I was
good.
talking about the birdcage. Sorry. I should clarify. My bad. That's on me. Sorry.
Yeah, but
but yeah.
so they even say at points that the stuff that he's wearing is very referencing this whole sort of 70s thing.
They use his photo from The
Yeah.
Conversation. Like, it's literally like, if they had just changed the name, it would be the
Right?
same character. It must have been like they didn't have the rights or something like that, or Coppola was
For
like,
sure.
absolutely not.
Mhm.
Which makes sense. They are two very different movies about the same thing, which is very strange.
There's so much
but-
about this movie
yeah.
which just gets into the technology thing. Like I remember watching this movie in the 90s and it sort of not freaking me out, but everyone being like, "Man, can you imagine? Can you imagine if satellites could read like everything?" Yeah, they already
Yeah.
can. Can you? Because we've got drones as well now. So like there was
Mhm.
a lot of those shots are very drone adjacent. Then you've got people just looking into any camera, but it's ripped out of the
Yeah.
headlines of today, man.
Right.
Mhm.
Is they're talking about you've got those Wi-Fi cameras now that leaked online, so anyone can sort of watch you and things like
Mhm.
that. It's just this movie. The more this movie went on, the more I was like, "Fuck! What a kind of dystopian world that we live in."
It holds up so well. Like even like the tech. What I love about this, I was thinking, those like those James Bond movies or those like older spy movies when the main character would show up to a hotel room and like scan everything to see if it's bugged. This one you get to see them putting all of the bugs in. I thought that was so cool. It was like, oh, it goes in the phone, it goes in the shoe, it goes in the smoke detector. Like that was cool. I like that.
And some like the good use of POV camera shots and things
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
But this movie it was kind of at that beginning of Tony Scott going, you saw him as he got nearer the end of his career. He got like I think he peaked at Domino for being crazy, and then what I mean is like smash cuts, cut to white, like flashes on camera, weird movement zooms, and like this one is kind of like it's doing all of that kind of like the intercut and the craziness with the satellites and the sounds. He
So
was,
good.
he was swinging for the fences towards the end of his career.
It's this movie. This movie was how long was just over 2 hours, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just over 2 hours.
But it does fly by. Like the pace of this movie is like breakneck. It fucking goes.
It does. And I'm like, I was watching again and I'm like, I remembered the movie, but then I also was like, I sort of forgotten about the whole book ending with Tom Sizemore. About the setup at the beginning that, oh, he's in trouble with this mobster that wants to kill him for a tape, and then he gets in trouble.
It was a simple misunderstanding.
Yeah. And
but it plays it so well. Like so much goes on that by the end of the film, even against like seeing it, so many times, you're like, oh, right. He utilizes this conversation at the very end and then hides under a table while everyone just shoots themselves. Crazy. But
that's how I solve most of my problems.
Right. This movie has a very amazing like henchman gallery. As I'm watching this, I'm like, oh man, it's so good. It's fantastic. Yeah, like an Ocean's 11 style who's who of like.
Yeah, I'm amazed. Every single name that turned up on the credits, like the opening credits before it skipped over to producers and stuff. There wasn't a single name when you were like, who? You were like, oh, yeah, I know Lisa Bonet. Oh, I know.
It's the second week in a row we're doing a Barry Pepper movie. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and
United States of a Barry Pepper.
Whatever happened to Barry Pepper, man? Like that guy.
Battlefield Earth.
Yeah, that happened to a lot of people. That also happened to John Travolta, who also features in one of the movies. But we're not going to get there yet. No. Will, why don't you tell us? Because we brought a 1990s Tony Scott sort of action movie. And then you bought another 90s movie, and it was an interesting choice, and I was happy you chose it. What was the movie you brought to the table?
Well, once I looked online, movies set in Baltimore or Maryland, I was like, ooh, Eraser's on there. So I brought Eraser. I've seen this movie 85 trillion times. I never really clocked where it takes place. But
well, you know what? I've watched this movie one more time, and even now I couldn't tell you whether
I'm convinced I'm convinced you went into the Eraser Wikipedia page and just did like a find and replace and just added
Maryland.
Baltimore in.
Oh, guys, look at it.
I mean, it's in there. It's written.
Guess we got to watch Arnold go, your luggage. I think that's what we're doing today.
I got a soft spot in my movie heart for this film. As
I've got a hard spot in my movie pants for this film.
Yeah. I think it's in that tier of Arnold movies where I'm like, perfectly fine. It's not like
it's the beginning of
Predator.
The end.
It's not or on the lower end. It's not like what would
End
be
of
on
Days.
the lower end?
The sixth day.
That's a higher end.
I like
have
the sixth day. I like Eraser's around the same thing as the sixth day.
But this was like the beginning of the end for that, like that transition into his career where he's like, maybe I don't want to do this anymore.
Well, the thing about it is I totally get what Willie's saying. This is $100 million movie. Right? This is $100 million. It made $250 million. But at the same time, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, oh man, like Ryan and I, we got on, we watched it on Zoom together, and it's like,
yeah, I was there.
All the pieces are there, and it's like, you've got the budget and you've got Arnie and you've got the big explosions of the cool railgun. You've got the great action scene with the plane and stuff like that, but it's missing James Cameron. It's missing the thing that the Terminator 2 of it. It's missing the Conan of it. It's missing the Paul Verhoeven. It's a movie that's being made competently instead of well or stylishly or with a point.
Yeah.
The point of this movie is, well, let's put Arnie. His name's gonna be John Kruger, and let's just blow. should we blow some shit up and we'll make a joke about shooting an alligator? Done. Your luggage. Boom. Movie. $250 million. And you know what? They were right. But watching it again, you're like, it's just not, you're missing the James Cameron. You're missing the
it's missing that polish for sure.
Yeah.
I think it does borrow a lot from those other films, but you're so right. I wasn't even thinking about that because I was too busy having the time of my life.
Oh, I mean, look, like I said, I've watched this 85 million times. So, but I'm the biggest Arnold fangirl on the planet. So, I've of course seen this one a whole bunch.
It's a good one. I mean, yes, as I said, it's directed by Chuck Russell, who apparently directed Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, which I hear is a very good one.
That
He
is the
directed
best of all the
Scorpion
sequels.
King. He directed a few movies. He also, and this is the thing that I think gives him a pass for everyone on this podcast, he produced Collateral for Michael Mann.
Ooh.
Did he also direct The Mask?
Yes, he directed The Mask as well, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
it's like on one end you have The Mask, on the other end you have the Scorpion King, and somewhere in the middle is Eraser.
Yeah.
He does
Flawless.
have he does have quite the sort of variety. As the sort of the cast as well. We got Vanessa Williams, whose entire point in the movie is to sit in scenes and ask questions that moves the plot forward at no
a lot of exposition in this
movie. Here's a random scene and move things on so we can throw Arnold outside of something else or have a gunfight. James Caan, being James Caan,
incredible.
You can't argue with that. And James Coburn as well, with the greatest voice in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, and a young John Slattery from Mad Men in one scene.
Yes. Yeah, I remember it was like when Mad Men came around. I finally was like, oh hey, it's
that's the guy from Eraser.
Yeah.
but as much as we were trying to, Ryan and I like to, in the first 2 minutes of any movie, make sure that there is a shot of a license plate telling us which state we're in. There wasn't one in this one, but the end of the movie does go down on the docks in Baltimore. Correct me if I'm wrong. Baltimore is in Maryland. Bish bash bosh. Eraser is fine.
Done.
It got a clear pass from us. The stamp, the United States stamp of it happened here.
The United States stamp of close enough.
Exactly.
And I had mentioned the opening scene of this movie where they blow up that house was actually shot in my my hometown in Whitestone, Queens, New York. And they built that house in between on a street, and it was that was such a big deal for our town. Like, oh shit, they're shooting an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie here and they're building a house to blow it up. Holy shit, hell yeah.
And they barely blow that one up. And then they blow up another house like 5 minutes later.
They blow it up enough.
They blew it. They could have blown it up more. I mean, this is an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. It was like a small.
Except it was a small house. You're right. But I don't know if we're talking about this movie now, but we'll get into it.
Oh, well,
there's one more movie, right? There's one more movie, right?
There is.
No,
I
think we got it. That's just the two this week.
Moving on.
There is one more movie, the movie that I brought to the table, a movie I did not want to watch when I watched it in the year 2009. I think I was like, about it. Mrs. puts it on. It's one of those movies where, all right, I've got kids, or Mrs. wants to watch it. And by the end, boy, oh boy, was I charmed by this movie. I love this movie. It's a good movie, and you better believe there's going to be some fighting on the podcast today, because Will's got that same look on his face that he had when he watched Twister and Major Payne.
Will, who's slowly morphing into Rooster Cogburn.
Let me tell you about that movie. It made no impression on me. Ain't that special? You love beef? Yeah.
You're dead. You're dead on the inside, because the movie I brought to the table is the 2007 musical Hairspray, directed and choreographed, I believe, by Adam Shankman, who also has a pretty interesting filmography. Actually, directed A Walk to Remember and Bringing Down the House and The Pacifier, Disenchanted, and the Hairspray movie, to name others. And this movie stars
all the hits.
Nothing but knocks out of the park.
And you know what? How many movies have you directed, Ryan? Go fuck yourself.
Well, if you go onto my OnlyFans, you'll see.
Much prefer those.
This movie stars, again, bear with me, John Travolta, Christopher Walken, Michelle Pfeiffer, James Marsden, Queen Latifah, Zac Efron, Nikki Blonsky, Amanda Bynes, Allison Janney, and this movie's fantastic. In fact, so fantastic that I got back from line dancing last night at 12:30, and then Mrs. and I stayed up for 2 and a bit hours and watched this till nearly 3 in the morning. And you know it's a good movie because Mrs. stayed awake for the entire damn thing, and I'm going to fight for this movie that opens with the song Good Morning Baltimore.
That's the only thing impressive, is that Zach was able to stay up to watch that movie. Everything else, not cool. No, but you're right. Like, I'm not a musical fan. I don't care for like musicals. I've seen Grease, I've seen Crybaby, maybe the only John Waters movie I've seen. I'm not familiar with the original But yeah, I much like you in 2009, I was not in the mood to watch this movie, and I did because I have a duty to do for this podcast, and it's a great movie. It's beautifully shot. It's infectious. It's lighthearted. It's great. I just didn't care for it, and I really John Travolta's voice in this made me very uncomfortable.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
this is a movie. This is a musical based on a musical based on a movie. I think is the best because there's the original movie, the John Waters movie, that stars Ricky Lake, and then they did a
Right.
Broadway adaptation and made it a
Okay.
musical, and then they made this musical movie adaptation that took both of them and combined them.
The original wasn't a musical?
No, the original
should
was
have picked
just
that.
a movie. Yeah.
See, I thought it was the other way around. I was like, oh, this seems like such a Broadway musical production that was then turned into a movie that was then turned back into a musical. I don't know.
I think this movie is infectious because, like I said, I ended up like I remember watching this the first time, and just it happened again last night. But when we get to that final bit where everybody's singing and wrapping up their stories, and I'm just like, I'm having a great time.
It's a real toe tapper, I will say.
It is. But see, look, Will, who's been staring into like 1,000 yards,
The void.
Yeah, dead behind the eyes.
For the last
Just
2
like,
minutes. Will, why do you hate America?
Well, now. All right, here's my manifesto, guys. It's becoming that podcast. No, like it's honestly, it's not like the worst movie I've ever seen by a long shot. Like it's perfectly fine. It's well made. It looks pretty good. The music's great. It's just that everything about it was just, like I said, just bouncing off me, like just making no impact. I was like, okay. I think it was so funny. This movie was so like out of my head that you guys were in the text thread talking about Zac Efron. My brain did not absorb it. So like I'm watching the movie and I'm like, oh, James Marsden. If they made this today, Zac Efron would be in it. And then Zac Efron showed up and I was like, oh, well, nothing about this is sinking in. None of the information beforehand, nothing about this movie.
All the pieces are there too. Everyone in it is absolutely fantastic. It's a really, really phenomenal production. But yeah, it just didn't click with me. It's just not my type of film.
I think
I think you overhyped it too.
Is it because you're a racist? Is that why?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of it. No, but like,
it's not nothing.
For me, it's like, I've only seen a couple John Waters movies. I haven't seen a ton of them, but I was telling you guys on the text thread, casting John Travolta in that role, whereas like the original was divine. Just it really feels like I don't know. There was something about it where I'm like, that's just a lame, like, you cast an actual drag queen in that role because Divine did not get the credit she deserved like back in the day because she is phenomenal. It has one of my favorite movie monologues of all time in Pink Flamingos, which I told you guys, not a good movie, but I like it a lot and I watch it all the time.
All the time?
I've watched it quite a bit because I just watch it and I'm like, this movie sucks, but I love it and it's phenomenal and Divine is great. Yeah, just everything about this movie just felt very studio, like, friendly, studio approved.
It almost looked
John Waters is in it as the Flasher, which that was funny.
Sure.
So I guess he endorsed it.
It looked to me, because I don't watch these type of films, but I was like, it seemed like a very special episode of like a High School Musical special live episode that they were going to do.
High School Musical came after this, so this is a very, very slick. Now I will say that, it turns out I actually quite like musicals, like In the Heights. I'm a big fan of In the Heights. That is a very well shot movie as well. I do enjoy that movie. But I know what you mean, in as much as looking at it, it's so bright. It's shot like a television show of very high, but it's shot. I know what you mean, but at the same time, you're wrong. It's like, because I know what you mean. Is that like I've seen clips of it and I haven't seen it yet, but Will has said great things about Spielberg's West Side Story.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I've heard it looks incredible. I've seen some shots from that. I've seen some clips and it looks magical. It looks amazing. Whereas, like, when it gets to this movie, when it gets to Hairspray, that it's almost a little bit looks like Thunderbirds or something at times. Colors are a bit
Yeah, it's
vibrant.
almost overproduced.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
like the sets, but that's part of the charm. It's supposed I feel like it's supposed to look like a play, you know.
Mhm. And I would say that because there's almost no actual like talking in this movie. There's maybe
No.
Yeah.
4 minutes of dialogue. The whole thing is just song to song to song to song.
It's
to
the
song.
opposite of Streets of Fire.
Yeah.
See, that's why I didn't like it.
Yeah,
Don't go to
exactly.
opposite of Streets of Fire.
No,
You
there's
do
no
Streets of
motorcycle
Fire.
explosions. You don't get dominatrix Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, where's Will Dafoe? Exactly.
Yeah, boo.
I would have
Bring
taken
that back.
You
Willem
get
Dafoe could have done the Christopher Walken.
Yeah, I was gonna say you get
Oh,
farty
for
Christopher
sure.
Walken.
But like so okay, Will, I can understand. So far you're not dead to me. You're okay. You've expressed opinions that are perfectly valid. But at the same time
We'll get there.
yeah, we'll find it.
We'll do
But
it.
like Christopher Walken, right? I mean, just the fact for me, I'm watching this movie, and I remember like Will, you were like saying some of your sort of things you're talking about. You had expressed on the text thread. You know your issue with John Travolta. I love him. I love him in this movie, and I think for a lot of people, it was like seeing John Travolta singing and dancing again was a big deal. You know, especially 2007. It was like it's John Travolta back in a musical from Grease, Michelle Pfeiffer from Grease 2 back in a musical, Christopher Walken, you know, singing and dancing and just being a goof. I mean, like the guy with just the most bizarre line readings of all time, and they were just again watching the movie last night. Who speaks like this? The guy doesn't feel like a real human being. I'd love to have an actual conversation with the real Christopher Walken because
Yeah, what would that
who is
be?
this guy? This alien? But everyone is stealing it. Michelle Pfeiffer as the most awesome, funniest racist ever. James Marsden. The guy is the most charming human
Yeah.
being on earth, and he's got this smile that's 3 times bigger than anybody else's, and he's just being such a goof as Corny Collins with all his thumbs up and everything else. Queen Latifah, Zac Efron while he was still cute before he fucked his face up with doing all that HGH and all those, you know, building himself up. Amanda Bynes. Never take your eyes off Amanda Bynes in every single scene she's in. Her mum, played by Alison Janney, absolutely killing it. And, of course, we do need to mention, turning 18 while making this movie for the first time, Nikki Blonsky, who came out of nowhere and then disappeared to nowhere after this movie. But she's fantastic. This movie...
Yeah, she was great in this. Everyone in this movie is great. I will say,
Yeah.
I'm like the whole John Travolta thing. I was like, I know that at its time it was like a big deal, but it's just something felt off about it and just made me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
care for it.
for me, it was the whole not casting an actual drag queen. I was
Yeah.
just like, this is just
Yeah.
this doesn't feel right. It doesn't track for me.
To be fair,
that just
they
bothered me.
got very close.
They got very close.
It's the role Travolta was born for her.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think he's great. And the thing is, for me, I'd say, Will, like in the UK, we have this thing called pantomime. So like it's a big thing in the UK every year. You go to Panto, is what we call it. And whether it be Peter Pan or whether it be whatever classic story it is, the female older is always played by some guy from TV, some guy that everybody knows. Somebody is always the guy in drag. And so, yes, I definitely get your point about an actual drag queen. But at the same time, 2007, how many, you know, apart from RuPaul, name a famous drag queen.
Name 5 drag queens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so again, I think putting John Travolta in this seat, and he plays such a fucking goofy mum.
Hear me out though. Let me pitch this to you. Nathan Lane.
Yeah.
Better.
Yes.
Way better.
But like having Nathan Lane doing that, and like, you know, God, we should have got Gene Hackman in there as well instead of Christopher Walken.
Oh my God.
Hold on.
See, now
hold on.
So is it too late to do another remake of this? We might be able to.
I feel like I'm onto something. I find so much about this movie just inherently charming.
It's very
This is
charming.
kind of why I wanted to do it, because kind of like, you know, Ryan said, oh, he heard, immediately went enemy of the state. Maryland, Baltimore, I immediately went, I now got to do Hairspray. But it's because it is a movie that I went into so reluctantly. I mean, literally having a little bit of a tantrum of, no, I want to watch something that blows it up. I don't want to watch a musical. And then by the end of it, I'm humming and singing along. And then, like, look, just I'm the one standing up. Mrs. has watched the movie. And I'm like, yay, clapping along and shit. So I was intrigued to see whether it could sort of like win you over. The fact that you're not shitting all over it means, okay.
No, it is a good movie. It's it's not my like. I will not deny that it's a good movie. And in fact, when I was mentioning this, that we were doing Maryland, 9 times out of 10, people were like, "Oh, you got to do Hairspray. You got to do Hairspray." And I would have to begrudgingly say, "I'm like, yeah, we're fucking doing Hairspray."
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I don't actually. Like I said, it just didn't really make an impression. But I've seen like way worse. Like I'll say this, I think Hamilton is way more embarrassing than this movie. Like Hamilton, it was one of those when I watched that for like finally, I was like, this is what you've all been like freaking out about. Like,
yeah, that's the problem.
I'm never gonna listen to musical fans like again.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was nice to finally this final episode of having Will on the show.
I think.
To your point, you fucking kidding me, Will? Come at me, you Hamilton nerds.
I will say I've never seen it, but to your point, and the reason I'm not watching is for that exact reason. It's been so like, it's been part of the culture for so long, and it's been talked about and touted as like this incredible thing that I know it could never live up to those expectations for me. And I also don't like musicals, so no. That's when John Travolta plays Paul Bunyan, right?
Yeah. He's fantastic.
I'm getting my wires crossed.
Kevin Hart is the Blue Ox, which is,
and Kevin Spacey is never mind.
Wait. Will, so Ryan, you've not seen Hamilton on Disney Plus?
No.
Guys, seriously, and Will, seriously? One of the best.
No, it started in 5 minutes into it. I was like, oh no, like this is gonna be rough.
I don't know what to think
It's
about.
the one where Hamilton is a rapist, right?
Yeah. He's the nation's first rapist. I realized pretty quickly. I'm like, who's the guy who does it?
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah, I want to clarify. I think he is a super nice guy. Like he seems awesome. Really chill dude. This is not a commentary on him whatsoever. He should stop being in things. He has got no stage presence. His singing is awful. His raps are worse. But Lynn, you seem incredibly nice. I mean this with love.
The guy wrote a 3-hour Tony Award-winning musical that
I'm never trusting the Tonys with anything again.
Of America.
Like, okay.
And you're like, he's rapped the history of America.
Ugh.
Well,
if you get a chance to see him in his little arc he does in a couple seasons back of Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's great.
Is he good in that? Okay, I might.
He's great. Larry he comes up with this idea for a musical, and he gets Lin-Manuel to produce it, and he's like, "Oh, great! I'm going to produce it and star in it, and it's going to be this whole thing." And they bump heads. They make him look like such a prick, and it's a very good turn for him as an actor.
Well, did you see Moana? Will, did you see Moana? Did you like Moana?
It's fine. Yeah. I liked it, but he is not.
I've seen Moesha.
I don't. It's so much better. No.
That was
is that a thing?
Yeah. I don't know. His musical style just doesn't work for me. And I feel like unless you like. Maybe it's one of those things. I listen to a lot of rap, so maybe it's because I listen to a lot of rap.
I
hear Lin-Manuel man. No sweat here, baby. I'm confident in my don't care about Hamilton.
Well, I have your Twitter feed pulled up here, and who?
Bring it. Been waiting to get canceled on Twitter.
Yeah, he listens to a lot of rap. He likes Kid Rock. He likes
the best.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Who's that new Kid Rock? Who just did with Ben Shapiro? Who's that kid?
Oh,
that's the best rappist. Let me tell you.
That is
rapping grannies.
I can't. Yeah. Okay, 1, Will, you're wrong. 2, Ryan, watch Hamilton. Jesus, for the love of God, watch Hamilton. Come to the house. Come to Texas, and we're watching Hamilton.
Yeah, you tried to get me to do that before, and I felt like it was some fucking weird cult thing. Like, join us.
God.
So bring it, Hamilton nerds. I'm ready for all your stupid opinions.
Oh my God. You'll be back.
Except for the King George song. The King George song.
Hey, there you go. See,
that's phenomenal.
I agree.
The whole play, if the whole musical is that, perfect.
No, I did. I do remember that. Like, I did feel bad. Like, as some people that have listened to the show may already know, but Will and I used to work on a TV show right this minute together. And on that show, we had a number of hosts. I was one of five, and I do remember. So Gail Bass, she's big into movies, huge movie fan, loves musicals, loves Hamilton, and it's like she asked, like, so what was your favorite part? And I was like, oh, the King George part. So I picked the one bit that's British and white.
Yeah.
The whole fucking thing. She's like, really? That's the bit you like?
It's the only part I've seen.
The one.
And the funniest part is that
I
part
like
is
the
great.
white guy.
Yeah. Hear me out.
I think King George had some good points, let me tell you. Yeah.
Back to Hairspray though, because that's
yeah.
You know what? Even that, Will, what is there any musical you do like?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned West Side Story, and I like La La Land. See, here's the thing with me and musicals. I'll tell people like, hey, I liked this one. La La Land, that was great. And musical fans will be like, oh, you liked that one? That's the trash one. I'm like,
I haven't
okay.
seen La La Land yet, actually.
I think it's great. Apparently, I'm wrong. I thought West Side Story was great. Apparently,
I heard it's great
wrong,
too, and that's the thing. I just don't care for musicals, so I'm like, I don't have a desire to see it. That said, off topic. I did recently watch the movie Theater Camp, which, much like a Christopher Guest movie, is very charming.
Okay,
and it just kind of reminded me of that. It's got some musical bits in it, but I wouldn't consider it a musical. That and Barb and Star, like there's a couple of great songs in there, but I wouldn't
Barb and
consider
Star
it a musical.
And Star is a movie that doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah.
No, I think that movie was marketed wrong though, because like
sure.
I went in expecting one thing and I was like, wait, this is like a new Austin Powers, essentially,
Yes,
is what they made.
That's
It's
exactly
so good.
How
It's
Mrs. and I
so good.
direct, like we said, we like, oh wow, this is like just a women's Austin Powers movie.
Yeah.
And it's like it's very, very, and that's the thing. So that if you're listening or watching right now, Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. I believe it's a Hulu movie. It came out during the pandemic. It is wildly funny.
It's so good.
And it awesome. Just shows, it's one of those movies that goes, oh no, women are idiots too. These women are just they've made a movie that is just silly and ridiculous.
It's very funny. Yeah.
And funny. And yeah, that was one of those movies that Ryan introduced me to. So I did that for you, Ryan. So now you're going to watch Hamilton. So it's a deal.
Yeah.
There we go.
Barb and Star go to Hamilton? I'm in.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Now we might have a sequel.
So, well, let's talk about things you did like. About Hairspray. Let's talk for a little bit about Nikki Blonsky. Nikki Blonsky, she was plucked from obscurity, put in this movie, surrounded by all of the biggest names in the history of movies in many ways, and she's great. I think she's
oh yeah.
Dancer,
you're talking about Amanda Bynes?
Voice. Sorry,
you're talking about Amanda Bynes?
No, see, Amanda Bynes is like she's hilarious. But you can tell she can't sing or dance.
Yeah, and I was watching this thinking like, wow, Amanda Bynes is like really tall in this because she's next to Nikki Blonsky, and I'm like, no, Nikki Blonsky's like 3'7".
Yeah, she's a hobbit.
She's very small.
It was like a forced perspective shot from Lord of the Rings.
Danny DeVito was her dance double.
And he's towering over her.
From the second one, I mean, you got it. She is in every scene. I mean, she is the point of the movie. She is the energy of the movie. So she's doing all of the heavy lifting. She's constantly in this, and she's just got this sort of. I think it's because she's 17, 18 in her first movie. She's kind of
which is wild.
That wide-eyed, starry, just like much like her character going on the Corny Collins show, is like it is that she's just kind of like, this is amazing, this is fun. Why this is the best time ever. So why wouldn't I be enjoying it while I can? Because, I mean, it didn't really kick off for Nikki Blonsky, really. I mean, I'm looking at it because I remember that she did this movie, and then I remember there was this big controversy. She got into like a rumble at an airport. Someone was mouthing off at her and her family after Hairspray, and they got into it. And I was like, all right, here we go. Look, 2008, Blonsky and her parents were involved in a violent confrontation with the family of Bianca Golden, a former contestant on America's Next Top Model, at the Providenciales International Airport in Turks and Caicos, and they were all charged with assault.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the most insane headline I've ever heard.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, so she's done movies here or there, but like honestly, since that, I don't think I've ever really heard of her again. That's the thing about it.
Yeah, I was wondering because she fucking pops in this movie, and I was like, oh, I bet she's in like a ton of stuff, and not really, not much.
She was in a Lifetime television movie the next year called Queen Size, which I'm sure is something to do with being big by the sounds of it.
Amanda Bynes has been in more shit after this movie than she has.
Yeah, there's basically, she was in an episode of Ugly Betty. Very, very little. That's the thing. I guess it's the same thing with, was it Gabrielle Sidibe? Was she the young lady from Precious? That she was amazing and got nominated and blew up, and it's like, and then there's nothing else, and it's like the guy that was in The Blind Side, and it's kind of like this, it's that messed up side of Hollywood of like, all right, let's get this person and we're gonna play a role, and it's a big person. It's like, oh, aren't they amazing? Should we put them in more movies? No.
Right. Yeah.
Let's get Chris Pratt. He hasn't been in enough.
Right.
We need to get Pedro Pascal in a project immediately. The guy hasn't worked in 5 seconds.
Precious 2, starring Chris Pratt. God. Fuck off.
That's what we need.
I like Chris Pratt and Pedro Pascal more than like the next person, but at the same time, there are more people. No, cast Pedro Pascal and everything. I love that guy. Yeah, he's the bomb. Michelle Pfeiffer. Let's talk about Michelle Pfeiffer. Is she maybe the most handsome older lady in the world? She's just so pretty.
Like stunning in this movie for sure.
Yeah.
She is
and funny, like so funny too.
So
I mean, everyone in this movie is fantastic.
I would say it's a funnier movie than I think you realize, than people sort of give it credit for. It's got a lot of just
even this, like in the songs too. Yeah,
I love the John Travolta, Christopher Walken like scenes, like the bit where they're dancing together, where he's singing about "You're like a stinky old cheese, babe. You want to get better with age." It's this whole. I love that scene, and they look like they're having such a ball, and you're like going, "That's John Travolta and Christopher Walken." He's just You believe that Christopher Walken loves that woman, like the way he looks at her, the way he dances to her. I love it. I find it so inherently charming watching those two legends of sort of cinema just being a goofs and dancing and having a good time. I mean, how can you not have a good time?
Maybe because I had just come out of seeing like Dune 2 with Christopher Walken in it. I'm like, oh, this is like a major step back for me.
His musical numbers in that were pretty good though. Like, when he's dancing with the sandworm, I mean,
yeah, the 5-minute dance with someone just going in the background.
You think he couldn't dance to it, but
John Travolta in the background just doing the
Travolta was the sandworm.
Yeah, doing his best Rooster Cogburn.
Dreams or some from the deep. What is it? I can't remember what they said in the first one. I screwed that whole thing up.
Doesn't matter.
Move on. Move on. Go see Dune.
We got
2,
there.
Get a popcorn bucket. Yeah.
Put your dick in it.
Yeah. That popcorn bucket's my wife.
Oh man, we'll do a quick 2-minute aside on Dune 2. Everyone's seen it, right?
Dune 2, doing it again.
Doing it again.
Great. Now, what was the one you called it? Dune, you really want to hurt me? What's that?
I'm doing my part too.
But like,
I can't wait for the bad lip reading of that one.
Yeah, I was just because you.
I watched the original one too.
I was watching it as well.
The roaches. That's great.
Ew. You're my lemon drip. Yeah, I was crying, laughing, watching bad lip reading the other night, like on Saturday night.
Yes.
Queen Latifah.
Yes.
Queen Latifah. I have such a soft spot for Queen Latifah. She's like, I think she's incredible, and I love her in this movie. I think she's gorgeous. And
it was a little weird to have her play her character from The Equalizer, but I respect the decision.
Yes.
Yeah, well, she shot everyone in the back of the head and got things going. She looked after that,
Was this before or after she did that Taxi movie with Jimmy Fallon?
I think. Yeah. Did you ever watch the original, the French one?
Taxi Driver?
No, just Taxi. The French Taxi movies. There was a trilogy.
Yeah.
You never seen? They were.
I've heard of them. I have not seen them.
Luc
I know they
Besson.
exist.
They're like really good sort of European action. The car chase. It's very John Frankenheimer's.
Ronin.
Yeah. Sorry. What did you say?
Ronin.
Yes, Ronin. Yeah, it kind of gives me. It's very, very well shot action. And then the remake was terrible.
That's the only one I've seen.
Wasn't Giselle Bundchen in there?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. That whole plot of that is like 3 crazy supermodels are doing a thing.
Something like that. We need an excuse to put Giselle Bundchen in a movie at the end.
Yep.
Pretty much. So essentially, the plot of this movie.
Much like this movie, we're going to be talking about this for 2.5 hours.
Well, the plot of this movie is very simple, actually. It's just that Tracy Turnblatt, played by Nikki Blonsky, she wants to be more than just a laundry person like her mother, who's an agoraphobic that hasn't left the apartment for 20 years, apparently. And she just wants to, she wants to make it. And look at her on regular daytime television. That she ends up on the Corny Collins show. And while doing that, also helps cure racism and bring in integration into America. And
Did she cure racism?
I think, she cured racism.
Yeah. That's why there are no racists today.
And Christopher Walken, who, correct me if I'm wrong, owns a shop that is basically the store where Pee Wee Herman gets all of his magic shit. Like,
yes, I think so. Right? Yeah,
just a bunch. It's like a bunch of goofy like magic kind of stuff.
Yeah, he owns like a joke store,
which is kind of awesome. Like, we need more of those.
Yeah.
What am I going to get my whoopee cushions on Amazon like a sucker?
Or joke stores. We can't just have Big Lots. We got to have more.
A joke store. That's what Twitter is nowadays, right? That's where you can. Everybody can just make jokes now and not have to worry about.
What are you going to do, Elon? We said your place is a joke.
I like my jokes with no consequences. That's why I do this podcast.
What was your favorite song? I'm going to put you guys. What's your favorite?
This movie had songs in it?
Oh God.
The first one?
I sure loved song number 4.
I like the cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit. That was in this one, right?
I
liked the one where they were all dancing and singing.
Oh my God. Can't you see?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
She's getting married and she's got all the toilet paper and she's walking with her sort of.
Yeah, it was great. That was great.
Like I like the bit where Zac Efron goes into so it turns like recess is where all the black kids are. Not recess, detention.
Detention.
They're always just
wait a minute. Yeah.
So it's like where everyone can just hang out and have a good time and dance, and it's that kind of the awkward nature of like Zac Efron sort of walking in to try and dance with them and just like being amazingly white about things. I always very much enjoy that. He's got good comedy, Zac Efron.
Very funny. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a funny dude. I actually like him in a lot of stuff. He was also very good in The Greatest Showman, another musical.
They were going to say Neighbors.
Yeah, he's good in Neighbors though. He's
and
great.
Neighbors 2.
I thought it was weird.
I've heard people were talking about Ricky Stenicki as being a funny film. No?
I mean, hey, if you got 20 writers on a product, it can't not be funny. Let me tell you.
Are you saying the Farrelly brothers are making a bad movie?
Never been done before. Never been done. I was just like in this movie, I was just kind of confused, like why Zac Efron was doing the iron claw on all the black students. That felt a little racially motivated, but it's I decided like I'm just gonna let it pass. Filmmakers know what they're doing.
So
Iron Claw, I can't believe they let Zac Efron do a Margaret Thatcher movie. That's wild.
Yeah. He was great in drag though. He was better than John Travolta was in drag. I'll say that.
I didn't like the part where they go inside Margaret Thatcher and it's all animated though. I didn't care for that.
Yeah. By the way, this could all happen in Hairspray. I don't really remember. Honestly, when you
Hairspray,
I wish.
Yeah.
Like honestly, when you were saying, if you had kept on saying like, "Oh yeah, Zac Efron goes to recess," in my head, I'm like, that's probably what happened. I have no. Yeah. I just watched this movie. I can't tell you if you're wrong. Yeah.
I'm honestly, this has been. You guys have done in the last 20 minutes have managed to not talk about the movie at all.
We did it.
I'm not even sure I watched this movie, and I did. but
I
I
went this-
retained none of it.
This is a good movie, and
It's a good movie, but
It
not
is.
for me.
You will enjoy it.
That's where I fall. It's a good movie. I think it's well made. I can understand why people like it. It's not my thing.
Will, you made us watch Oklahoma, motherfucker.
Which is a classic that people still quote today in other movies. Do we quote Hairspray in other movies? We don't even see Hairspray in other movies anymore. Hairspray
They don't even
is
use
like
Hairspray
outlawed.
in movies anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So we know that you liked song number 4 and the one with the dancing.
I liked all the music. I thought all the music in it was great. Like everything about this movie is great. It just didn't connect with me, like I keep saying.
And I think something Will said on the text thread was like, no, the characters aren't developed at all. I was watching the movie. Yes, they are. Every song is character development. Are you fucking crazy? Did you only watch the movie when people were talking? Anytime it was singing and dancing, you were just on your phone.
That's what I did.
Confused why the movie was
yeah.
5 minutes long. Yeah,
I skipped past all the songs. Yeah,
I don't know. In my opinion, they weren't super like well developed. Like I don't know. It wasn't like very deep. I don't know. It just didn't. None of it worked.
I'm in the same kind of camp, and you're not gonna turn me around and be like, "Oh my god, you're right. I love this movie." It's just I just don't like musicals in general. So,
I'm gonna get Arnold Schwarzenegger is gonna do some action musical one day, and we're gonna win.
Well, if they finally want to make a good musical, they will. But you know,
Bicep the musical.
I turn this gator into luggage. Yeah.
Hold on.
See, now I'm down.
Hold on.
We'll just been erased.
All right. Well, look, fine. I can accept that you guys just aren't into musicals. If, however, you have a soul and want to have a good time, take it from me. Hairspray is a good one. I'm going to recommend it. But we're going to move on because I want to hear more of Will's flawless Arnold Schwarzenegger impression.
Yeah, you guys didn't know we invited Schwarzenegger onto the podcast, huh?
Come on, do it now. I was like, wow, this is really good.
I'm not even
Sounds like Rooster Cogburn doing Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh God. I've got the knife.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh,
no!
Well, you're bleeding from your nose and eyes.
Oh God! I'm coughing up blood. Dear God.
All right, fine. I can accept this. Let's move on. Let's talk about Eraser. Then let's talk about Eraser, the movie that does take place in Maryland for at least 12 minutes of this movie. That's pretty much what it is. But yeah, let's get into it. All right, Eraser. I'm with Will, like you were saying at the beginning, that it's a little bit like and Ryan understands this, my Ron Seal quick drying wood stain of a movie. Mm-hmm. It does exactly what it says on the tin. Arnold Schwarzenegger's on the cover looking handsome, looking strong. There's a little bit of blurriness for Washington in the background. And it's like, and I like that font. I like the font. I want to watch this. Yeah. It's that simple.
It's a good font movie. Most people
who
don't
has
recognize
single-handedly broken down graphic design. Isn't Vanessa Williams also on the cover, just like behind Arnold? Like
yeah.
Poking her head. Yeah, like she's another head, like just poking out of like his shoulder.
Who dis?
He will erase your past to protect your future. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what he does. And he's like
hey.
He's at that sort of peak Arnie. He's just looking super handsome. It's like, Predator, very, very, very attractive Arnie. Like the guy's just got such a unique bone structure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is after Last Action Hero, yeah? That definitely has to be.
Yeah, after Last Action Hero. This is the last one he did before he had his heart surgery. Oh wait, Batman and Robin was last before his heart surgery. It was this, then Batman and Robin.
Because Batman and Robin would have killed most people.
Yeah. and then he came back and did End of Days, which is great.
It's a banger of a soundtrack that I still own on compact disc.
End of Days was 1999. You're right. So we had Eraser 96, Jingle All the Way same year, Batman and Robin 97, and a 2-year break, like you said. And then we had End of Days, The Sixth Day, Collateral Damage, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, and that was kind of like the slow.
Yeah.
What was Collateral Damage?
Collateral Damage was the
terrorism
one that killed his family, and he's a fireman. You're understanding now why you didn't see it, because in a post everybody wanted to watch a movie about terrorism blowing up and killing your family in 2002, the year after 9/11. You know what we want to have more of in our movies? Terrorists.
I think it was supposed to come out in September 2001. Like I think like that's when it was like original date was. And then like 2 weeks before it came, it was something close to it, like, you know, a couple weeks before it came out, something big happened on the news. And then they decided they would delay it.
It was directed by someone named Al Qaeda.
good old Al.
Produced by Terry Wrist.
Oh, no.
Those guys, let me tell you, they were on a streak in the early 2000s.
So yeah, the vigilante action thriller from the director of Under Siege, The Fugitive, Above the Law. Oh, okay, Andrew Davis.
I mean, my Blu-ray box set is both Collateral Damage and Eraser, so we get them both in one Blu-ray set.
Ooh, and here we go. Will, get some bonus points for your movie knowledge. The September 11th attacks affected the release and editing of the final film. The film's original trailer was scrapped because it showed a major bomb attack in the US and was scheduled to be released October 5th.
That's when it was, yeah.
Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
So
but then he did, I liked The Last Stand. I thought that was cool. And then Sabotage was another one that was all right.
I haven't seen The Last Stand. I put on Sabotage, which is a David Ayers movie, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I turned it off.
Fine.
It's whatever. I just couldn't. And you know me, I'm British. We swear like the best of them, but it was one of those like David Ayers movies, like aggressive amounts of swearing and racial slurs and every sort of slur. I'm just like, all right, okay. I'm trying to watch a movie and my kids are wandering around. I go, yeah, no. So
it's pretty dull. It's pretty dull. It's pretty boring. It's not good. Last Stand though, I will Last
That's
Stand.
That's the Johnny Knoxville one. Yeah, I like that movie.
I've heard very good things about that movie.
That's one where he's got a team and or is that the other one I'm thinking of? Is that Sabotage?
That's
Sabotage is the team.
Yeah, the Last Stand is he's like a sheriff and there's some guy trying to make it to the Mexican border and apparently he's like
they don't hide that he's old. Like they embrace like, okay, Arnold's old by this point, and that actually makes it more fun. That's
for sure.
Whereas in Eraser he is prime Schwarzenegger. So as I was saying earlier, he plays the character of John Kruger, which is a way of explaining why this guy that works for the U.S. Marshals Witness Protection Program is also Austrian.
Are you going to do that the whole time?
Yeah, I would do it for the entire thing. But what is so cool about this movie, so cool, and Ryan and I, every time it was happening, it's the railgun.
Oh yeah.
It's just
still holds up, man. This shit holds up. We were talking, Ollie and I were talking, and I know we mentioned this a lot on the podcast, but this also was like another one of those movies that was doing something cool with like filming technology, that they would have a like half-hour feature on all of the stuff they were doing for this movie. So like the railgun effects and the stuff with the CGI alligators, like that was still such a new-ish thing that they were doing for these movies. And it was still like watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, when he's with the alligator and he throws the thing, like him just throwing that piece of wood or whatever was completely, I mean, it doesn't hold up now, but it was just so cool to, like, it just triggered that kind of nostalgia drip for me. I'm like, oh, I remember getting excited for this movie and loving how they would have how it was made kind of stuff. And I miss that.
I remember the plane bit. It's like, because let's be like, not gonna lie, that bit on the plane, pretty legit. Like the bit of him hanging out the side with the burning like thing. Okay, this is a cool scene. Very, very cool. Like, but I remember like exactly like Ryan's saying, as I remember watching a 20-minute feature. Like hanging in how the plane was like that and the green screens on the bottom.
It's such an insane premise too, that he is this character who is hired to take people and like or put people into witness protection, right? Like he's
even like the one step higher witness protection. So like the beginning of the movie, there's a guy in witness protection. There's the guy that's like the crossover. If you took Al Pacino and just crossed him over with
so good though. Still holds up.
I like that.
He's good. The most great Italian sterotype.
Yeah, and I love his goons that you meet later on. You got hey,
your funeral was beautiful, man.
But like he's
big dumb guy.
Stereotypical Italian American that he got himself caught in WITSEC by going to his favorite restaurant. Hey, you're having a proper meal in 6 months. You know what I mean? It's all right, here we go. So it turns out that this is like, you get one. Apparently this is the rules, that if you get in WITSEC and you mess up, you get one. and an Arnold Schwarzenegger turns up and makes you disappear again,
Yeah.
and makes it look like you're really, really dead.
And how much does this process cost? Because
Yeah.
and it's so funny because there's a bit later on where Arnold and Vanessa Williams need help with someone, and they go to this church and they meet this priest, and all in are dying laughing. Like, wait a minute. All these people that he's quote unquote erasing have done some like really fucked up shit, right?
Yes.
To have to be put into this. So we're wondering, like, the priest, like, what was this
Yeah,
priest's
what-
former life? Like, I don't know.
Definitely
Yeah.
smuggled
Fucking
children out of Cambodia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now he's got like great access to this swathe of children. It's just like rubbing it in, like, oh right, I forgot you were a bad guy.
Whoops, I put them in the wrong line of
shit. Yeah.
word shit.
Yeah, but they were all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he puts the Italian American guy into, like, he has him working at a gay bar, which is
Yeah.
fucking perfect.
Yeah, but it was like, yeah, no, none of my, no one I know from my world is gonna come into this place. What's this? Is it Joe Vitrelli? Was he Tony Two Toes? Is that who we're talking about?
I think so. I forget what else he was in. He's been in a couple things, but nothing.
I think he was in Analyze This, Analyze That. But no, that's the wrong Joe Vitrelli. I know that guy.
It's the other guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. That guy, that mob guy, was in Analyze This, and he was great.
I remember that guy from Shallow Hal. He's the father in that movie.
Oh right, yeah.
Oh my god, that is
Robert Pastorelli, Johnny C. Hey,
yeah,
yo.
that's serious. So Robert Pastorelli. Yeah, that guy. He is like he's my god, he's in Dances with Wolves. Yeah,
Beverly
okay.
Hills
And
Cop
Beverly
2.
Hills Cop 2, yeah.
Yeah.
He's the guy that he's like, I got 5,000 American credit cards blank. So, all right,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, I do know this guy. He's cool. I liked him in this movie. This movie, so this movie is, it's ridiculous at the same time. You don't really like, she works for, she's just like, they even get into it. She's just a bona fide good person. Like they're even confused about it in the movie. Why is she doing it? Nope, she's just a nice person that saw a company doing something bad and she wants to be a good person about things. And it's like, all right, okay, we can do this. So she basically goes in with the help of the government and steals data from the company she's working for, which at the same time comes out that they're basically selling rail guns to. Are we back to Terry Wrists again?
Russian terrorists.
Are they Russians? Oh no, those are our friends, I believe. But like it's just from that point on, you're kind of in the movie. He's made an erasing, then we give her heist, and then him turning up to erase her. That scene. Let's just talk about that scene. The scene in her house, which is an amazing house, by the way.
Fuck yeah.
But then it's
definitely in Maryland.
Definitely in
100%.
And then we're being sort of stalked by that sort of the green, and it never really fully explains it because, like, does that green thing go through walls? Because it's on walls inside the. I don't care, but inside the house it just increases tension as you just see this thing, and then you get that great CGI of what the guys are seeing, and we're going through walls. And then we can see inside people's bodies and stuff like that.
The guy drinking the milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scene is cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool, but it's also like, why? Like my whole thought the entire time was like, why do you need that pinpoint accuracy when it's like the bullets it's firing like just blow a person in half?
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you?
No. These
to that
persons
level?
simply fly across whatever room they're hit with. Like,
What?
if it was a modern movie, they would just be obliterated.
Well,
But
yes.
they never really do they explain the technology behind the weapons, or it doesn't even matter because
They do.
it's firing like an
a
EMP, like a bolt.
electromagnetic rail gun that propels a piece of, like, I think they say aluminium almost.
Yeah, it's like
But
a
it's
bolt.
just a piece of, so it's not even like a bullet. There's no propellant or anything like that. And these theories do work, that they are trying, as they do mention in the movie. The only sort of example they've seen is they've talked about putting rail guns on Navy ships as a way of sort of shooting down missiles and things like that.
So cool.
So in theory, but there's the idea of them being that small and portable.
Right. And they need like battery packs to, like, they have to plug in to this power pack.
But they're cool. It's almost like,
cool.
They could have taken it one step further and gone the Aliens route, where they all had the steady cam.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
But it's also, it's
The
equally
point
as cool
is,
to
it's
see
a
Arnold
very dual wielding.
double fisting it. Yeah.
After exploding out of the ground. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that opening scene, because once it, he turns up with his delivery of balloons and get down, and then I love how. So it's a great little scene is that Vanessa Williams comes back and her dirtbag ex-boyfriend is in her house, has showered, is being a dick, and lists all of the ways that we're going to be happy that this guy dies soon.
Immediately, like within 10 seconds.
He's the most disposable character. It's like he turns up, he's in our house, not supposed to be there. He's being a dick. We find out he's basically cheated.
He drinks milk right out of the carton.
Yeah, he's like,
shit.
And then you're like,
everything they could do to make this guy suck.
Dead.
That's through the line.
It's like I was watching Masters of the Air the other day, which is that sort of Band of Brothers show that's on Apple Plus, and two of the guys both started switching pictures of their kids and their plans, and I go, I don't know which one's gonna die. No. But it's just, as soon as that guy turns up, Ryan and I go, oh, we know, this
His
guy
call sign is dead meat. Yeah, sure. Even the young rookie guy were like, you're toast.
What I thought that I really dug, and Ryan and I were saying, is that the effect for me of
the trail, right?
The trail behind the propel, the stuff that's come from the railgun, even now, 2024, it looks great. And that's what I always remember. Is like it's got that sort of it's different. You've never seen anything like it. It's not like the bullet time stuff from Matrix that was to come in a couple of years. It's this kind of it's smoke. Suddenly there's this wisp, and you're like, oh man, something's just gone shot through. And the way that they sort of show how destructive these weapons are as well. Kind of like
it's a devastating weapon, you're genuinely scared of. You get that tension bit when the power, they cut the power, and he's with the refrigerator, and you just see that tension of the glowing green. He's got to stay out of it, and they somehow can't see through the refrigerator because it's like the Superman where it's lead and they just can't see through it.
Did you see Indiana Jones 4?
Yeah, that documentary.
There you go.
Yes, I did, on record, saying every Indiana Jones movie is good.
You do say that often. Makes me wonder.
But I love the guns because I love I think the trail looks awesome. I think that's that extra little bit in that movie that really sells those as being dangerous guns, despite the fact that, okay, logically that doesn't make any sense. Why, if the whole point is to have a railgun that doesn't have any sort of propellant, you don't want smoke to give away your position. Those things would give away your position in an instant. Despite that real world logic, it falling apart, super awesome. I would not change a thing. I might even add more smoke because it rules. It's so cool.
It's still somehow such a very. I was thinking they really just went ahead and created this new type of weapon to have these terrorists have. And any other film would have been rocket launchers, whatever. But they were like, nope, got this almost like you said, this alien type of machinery that was built for the military, and they just have access to them. And it's no one's done that since. No one's got this badass energy propelled fucking weapon, because it wouldn't make no one would believe that. But they did it here first.
It's a good MacGuffin, and it's a MacGuffin that gets put to work. There's a great shot which is in the trailer, and it's from later in the movie when he's double fisting his rail guns, but there's the truck coming towards him, and he kind of blue, and then it kind of flies over his head, and I'm
still fucking cool, man.
Awesome.
So cool.
Sick.
And anytime, like I said, anytime someone gets hit with one of those bolts, they literally rocket across the fucking room.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Had Sylvester Stallone directed it recently, it would have just evaporated. It would have just been pink mist kind of thing. Apparently, he was actually offered the role, hated the script, and went to do Copland instead. So we got Copland.
Okay.
He's like, I've already done Demolition Man.
Right, but then this thing is kind of like I was saying earlier, though. We get into sort of the end game of the movie, and it's in the Baltimore docks, and he kind of runs and he grabs onto the shipping container. And this was another one of those moments that, as Ryan and I are watching, I go, this is what I mean. James Cameron had him hanging off a Harrier jump jet off the side of a building after a nuke's gone off. There's just, it's massive in scope, and this one is it's going to take place on a dock.
But still somehow so over the top too. It's for as grounded as it is, it's still pretty. You're right. I see what you're saying.
And it was there was the thing that I couldn't figure out is at the end of the movie is that Vanessa Williams has gone running off somewhere. James Caan, we're in the middle of a massive gunfight, and somehow in the middle of this gunfight and explosions and everything else, James Caan has managed to, while holding her at gunpoint, get him and her on top of a shipping container that is also attached to a crane. And we're just going, how did they get there? I mean, there's
Well,
no
no,
alligator.
you were going that way. I was like, who fucking cares? Let's get it.
Yeah, it's not
End game fight on a shipping container. Arnold's wounded. He's doing a single arm pull up. I don't know how he gets on top of that thing either. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just.
I think they
That's one of
jumped
those
from
things-
the boat onto the shipping container. That's what I
That makes
posit.
perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those things too, where like I said, seen it 85,000 times. On my 45,000th time watching it, I was like,
Yeah.
wait, why are they doing that?
There's a lot of
But
like there's a lot of stuff in the movie. I mean, you know, it's kind of the fun turn, kind of like what Ryan was saying is you get the turn that we find out that James Caan's a bad guy. But Arnie doesn't know it. And then they all end up on that plane. And like you're saying, so the guy turns up from the rock, the VX poison gas guy. VX poison gas, and you're like, dead.
Yeah.
Hey, new random character, rookie guy. Hey, do you mind if I jump on this plane for no particular reason whatsoever? Sure. Dead. And he doesn't last more than 5 minutes. But I do like the whole James Caan as a bad guy.
Yeah,
You know,
great
it's
turn,
like-
man.
Because he can play a good guy. He can just play James Caan. That's the thing about James Caan.
Yeah.
Just James
I
Caan.
don't think I've ever seen him play a good guy, unless you count Thief.
I was gonna say Thief is about as close as it gets.
Yeah.
Elf, I guess. You know.
Sure, yeah. True,
Nah.
true.
But
This is James Caan's first blockbuster action movie. But
That is
I
kinda
love this
crazy to
quote. Wait
think,
for it.
but-
You're gonna like this quote. He's not really in favor of these huge pictures, but in this case, there was a good story. It's like,
So it sounds a lot
Translation, huge check.
like. Yeah, I was gonna say James Caan hadn't been working for a bit and needed some money, so. But
He was also in that movie Bulletproof with Adam Sandler and one of the Wayans brothers. We brought it up on a different
Yeah.
episode.
Oh yeah, is he in that? I've never seen it.
I didn't
Is
know.
he in
It's
that?
I think he is.
a deep cut there,
Doesn't-
buddy.
Yeah.
So like, oh my god, this is great. John Milius did multiple rewrites as a favor to Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is why.
Oh man,
Jesus.
did he owe Arnold a favor? Let me tell you, him making Conan, like, if you ever want to have fun, look up like what Conan or what Arnold went through making that first Conan movie. I think they only paid him like something ridiculous, like $45,000. Like it was like a super low pay for that movie. He had to actually like bite a vulture, and he got like lice in his face and stuff. And dude, they were actually chasing him with the dogs because they couldn't afford like to have a stunt double do it. Like Arnold went through a lot making that movie, so I'm sure he's like, "Hey, remember what you did to me on that movie? You're gonna rewrite this one for free."
Well, I will erase you.
Flawless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flawless accent. There's bits though, like, so for me, Ryan, you referenced it. The 1990s of it all is that the alligators are janky as shit. Like,
Yeah, and another thing I
Yeah.
noticed for rewatching this, Arnold dives so much in this fucking movie. He is diving constantly, diving through the air, diving. I mean, obviously dive through the air, but I mean, every action sequence has him diving at some point, and it's again.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I didn't care for in this movie in my rewatch is this in the 90s, like this period of like these action blockbusters, all of the gunfire, regardless of what gun is being fired, sounds exactly the same. Like he's firing this like huge Desert Eagle, or Vanessa Williams is firing the small revolver. They all sound exactly the same.
Well, you already bought the one sound effect. Why do you need to?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the
why do you
same
need more?
gunfire from like Demolition Man. It's the same. Like it's a very iconic 90s action gunfire sound.
yeah, I miss that sometimes you'd be in movies and like John Woo movies would do that. Like the guns would sound different. Like they have different personalities for the person shooting them, kind of thing. I know what you mean. I like that sort of stuff. But
It didn't take me out of it. It was just something I noticed. I'm like, wait, that would sound different.
nothing could take.
They
you out
all
of this
have
movie.
gigantic Desert Eagle fucking hand cannons.
I like, and you get some of him being fun. Like you said, the zoo bit. He dives through. He dives onto his knees and elbows and slides up. Just like your leg.
Traffic.
Bang bang.
Yeah. It still got the classic Arnold one-liners, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And they still work.
Your luggage.
But he realizes he's only got 2 bullets left, even though he fired like 1,000 fucking rounds out of this thing, and he shoots the glass. But that was like a huge set piece I remember from this movie, as most people do. Everyone goes like, "That's the one with the alligators, right?"
Yeah. Shoot the glass.
Yeah.
Because it was in the trailer. That's why.
Dude, and the scenes where the alligators like rip those fucking guys apart, like that I don't remember it being that graphic, but Jesus Christ, it's pretty fucking graphic.
Yeah. I remember that as a kid and just being like, oh, nothing can ever top this.
That's how I'm gonna go.
Yeah. That's why I go to the zoo every week and antagonize the alligator.
Oh man, today's the day.
Do it, guys.
Though the parachuting, the skydiving scene, pretty good. You know,
Yeah.
like there's bits of this movie, and then there's other bits of this movie, and it's like there are parts that are just like A grade, and then they've sort of interstitialed C grade stuff with it.
It's just a bunch of like really cool set pieces with a bunch of bullshit nonsense in between, right?
Yeah.
Like, kind of spy thriller. It looks spy thrillery, but doesn't
yeah.
matter.
There's not enough there where you could be like see like a franchise spring out of it. You're like, no, this is like a nice one and done movie. Even though apparently they did do a sequel last year.
Right. They did a design.
Oh yeah, it's a show, right?
No.
I think it's just a movie.
Yeah, direct to streaming or direct to video, just like Lego reboot sequel without Arnold Schwarzenegger in it.
Yeah. Which everyone was clamoring for.
Yeah.
Well, much like Will spotted, but the railgun from this film can be spotted briefly during a sequence in Ready Player One, as we all know. Will famously loves.
Oh, good. I'll go rewatch the movie for that again.
Spielberg, notorious eraser fan.
But also, it's reportedly, makes sense. Reportedly, some scenes were written, lit, prepared, and then never shot. This happened several times and drove up the budget of the movie.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, and it's funny you say $100 million because I'm thinking about the movie and I'm like,
yeah, that's wild.
Where did that go?
In '96, I pulled that up and I was shocked. That's an insane budget for this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess $20 million of it was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
For sure.
So now it's an $80 million movie, you know, and then you got everything else on top of that. But yeah, but like, and you had people turning up because we had James Caan, with James Cromwell turned up for a baby.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God, this guy's in this movie. Not for long, because he does shoot himself in the face. Pretty sure.
Because I remember like it being in the theater and being like, hey, that's the guy from Babe. Oh my God. Well, I guess he's not in the rest of this movie.
Like, why did he shoot himself in the head? He read the script. I gotta do what? No.
In his last words, I'll see you in Star Trek First Contact, and then he pulled the trigger. That's a weird thing for him to say.
Yeah. It's canon.
And I'll come back in Lower Decks.
And Babe 2.
And that one episode of Star Trek Next Generation.
Oh, and God, you guys are
he's all over Star Trek.
Nerds.
So yeah, I mean, essentially, like this movie, it's not Terminator 2. You know what I mean? It's
not even Terminator Genesis.
It's
all right. Let's not be mean now.
it's not Predator. It's not. It's just. I think, Will, like you said it from the beginning, this is a movie that you can just throw on. You're not, if you're just like, it's 2 PM on a Sunday, you're like, I want to watch something, and I don't mind if I fall asleep during it.
Yeah.
This, and I don't know if that's, it sounds like an insult, but it's,
you're right.
It's the right kind of movie for you.
Like, you could watch this movie with commercials and you'll be, okay.
Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying.
You're stuck
I used to put it on when I did homework.
This is a movie you would have bought on DVD because DVDs were so new. Like, you're like, oh, I gotta get this movie because it's got all the action and stuff. I gotta see how this looks. And
I sure did.
Yeah.
I had this on VHS, DVD, and then now Blu-ray. So I've had it on every format. Wow. But when I used to do homework and stuff, I would just put it in and just have it on in the background, like, you know. So it's exactly that kind of movie.
Yeah.
And every time you made a mistake in your homework, you're like, you've just been erased.
I was sitting there like, there must be a term for like how I'm getting rid of all this. If only I knew.
Just looking at your pencil, like, huh? Only.
I used to say, "You've just been Eraserhead." Now,
fuck. But yeah, this was like from such an era of that '90s style of action movie, like again, like a Demolition Man, or that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head, or like a Sudden Death, like those types of kind of '90s-ish action films.
Look, listen to this. Roger Ebert, legendary Roger Ebert, gave the movie 3 out of 4 stars. wrote that there were so many plot holes that it helps if you have a short attention span, but that Eraser is nonetheless actually good action fun with spectacular stunts and special effects.
Yeah, accurate. It is.
Yeah,
it is.
All right,
It's a solid film. It's definitely not even in like the top tier of, or even the bottom tier of like Schwarzenegger's films. But like I said, I think this was like the beginning of the end of that. As we grew up knowing like your Predators, Commandos, Total Recalls, it just, and I think Ollie, you hit the nail on the head saying like it had like a Verhoeven or a Jim Cameron, like a top tier director attached to it to elevate, I think, the material, it could have been a better film, but it's still perfectly enjoyable. And I stand by it. I like this movie.
Will, seeing as you have the VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray, are you going to purchase the novelization of Eraser, which came out in 1996? And in fact, there was a PC video. Wait a minute, do you have that?
Give me a second.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Okay, this is
for those listening at home.
So Will has disappeared. He has left our Zoom call right now, so we can finally see some of the other movies that are available. Oh, hang on. He actually
oh my god
have the novelization.
Got it right here.
Wow.
Got it right here.
Holy
I got
shit.
and I got Face Off. The novelization of Face Off right next to it.
So it's just like the screenplay that just turned into a book?
No. I had the novelization of A Life Less Ordinary, weirdly enough. So they just, some guy takes the screenplay and puts it in a book.
Yeah, this is something they used to do way back in the day. With like novelizations of movies. I think they would base it off of like the screenplay.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
you
get more. You get all this sort of like, oh, you understand characters' motivations and stuff like that a little bit more. It's ridiculous. I can't believe you have that. Is it?
I know, that's so funny that you said that. I didn't even think about it till just now when you're like the novelization. I'm like, oh my god, my buddy Kenny, when we were working on Scare Us, we were shooting that movie in a bookstore. And I was just looking, I'm like, they have the novelization of Face Off and Eraser. This rules. And he got this for me like the last day on set. So shout out Kenny.
That's pretty awesome.
Kenny's awesome.
Yeah, but is anyone else like really in the mood to do a dramatic reading of Face Off now?
Yeah, now, yeah.
Dude, yes, we are. Let me tell you, I read the first couple chapters and I was like, yeah, okay, I want to do a live reading of this.
How do you novelize Face Off? I mean, I can kind of see like Eraser, Face Off. How do you put Nicolas Cage's acting into a book? I do not know.
Yeah. I mean, every page is just like, readers, you're not going to believe this. This guy's crazy.
Yeah.
At this point, he turned to the lady and asked, "If I were to let you suck my tongue, would you be grateful?" Before diving with two guns out of the door. I mean, like,
all the author's notes are like, and nobody thinks this is weird. Isn't that odd, guys?
Slow motion dove flew by at this particular point.
I am morbidly curious to check that out. That sounds pretty cool.
That's for me. Honestly, Will, the only way you can make that better is you got to go and bump into Arnold Schwarzenegger and get him to sign.
It's like such. The only way you could get those books was like the year that movie came out, and you were also in an airport.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
pretty
like,
much
before they had movies on planes. It's like, all right, I'll read a book about the movie.
I'm gonna read my movies like a nerd.
I have a book with explosions and stuff like that. You know?
Pop-up, yeah, that's cool.
I gotta find it. I have it somewhere. It's probably in my storage in my parents' house. But I had the children's novelization of Jurassic Park, which I remember buying as a kid because I'm like, this is the funniest thing I think I've ever seen.
Is the whole book, because it's for children, not spoken by the little DNA? Hi, I'm going to tell you the story about DNA and
pull up a chair.
I'm gonna read you the story of Jurassic Park.
I didn't see you there. Come on,
that would be awesome.
Based on themes hung by Steven Spielberg. Ooh, Garth Marenghi's Jurassic Park.
Oh my god,
would make everything better.
The fact you own the Eraser book has just made the episode.
God, that was so funny that you brought that up. That was just like,
you just happen to have it on your nightstand at all times. It's within arm's reach always.
It's like, I've got it. I've got the VHS, I've got the DVD, the Blu-ray, and the novelization. You think, like, did you write the movie? Like, you are the biggest...
I didn't want to say it, guys.
biggest Eraser fan on the planet, by the way.
I know, and I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
And
I thought
I'm
it
the
was just
number
a
one
movie
fan.
you'd seen like a lot, but this is alarming.
This is where
I
he
had
pulls
the
up. This
action
is,
figures. I had it all, man.
I was about to say, do you like?
Oh, a
you,
fucking
you've built a
railgun.
working railgun.
Oh, dude,
He's working with
That would
Jamie
be-
Hyneman right now.
yeah.
Or Adam
get it
Savage,
built.
excuse me.
Yeah.
Have you seen though? Adam Savage built like the gun, the weapon from the Fifth Element. Like he built a full
wait.
kind
Oh,
of
did he?
thing. Yeah, super cool.
I'm still waiting on him to build me Lilo's costume. That's what I'm waiting for from.
Room full of killers, trained killers. Not one of them makes what Little Red Button does.
Yep. God, I should have picked that for New York.
Yeah, I was thinking that just yesterday, going, man, why didn't I do Fifth Element for New York?
Is it New York?
It is New
They
York.
were-
It's
It's on Earth, so
Yeah.
you know.
and it's on Lost in Paradise, but it's in New York. It starts in New York.
Lost in Paradise.
You
You have to say it like that legally.
you do.
Mhm.
Anything else? Anything else for Razor before we move on? It's
I mean, I'll do a dramatic reading from it. Like,
actually, you know what? Do me a favor. Do me a favor.
That's Rooster Cogburn.
What? How does the
Oh,
book
God.
start? Come on, read us the like first
okay.
page.
Book starts
In the not so distant future of 1996.
Royal Oak could be anywhere in the USA. Oh, okay, forget it. Hold on, it doesn't even say Maryland.
Oh,
Damn it!
fuck.
The first page betrays me.
Oh my god.
Forget that. That's not canon. That's not canon.
Oh no.
I can't believe that's the first line of
Oh
the
no,
book,
my
too.
petard.
Damn it.
I've been
The
twisted.
book just totally sold me out.
Wait, what did it say? Red Oak, was it?
It says, Royal Oak.
Royal Oak.
Anywhere.
Wait, Maryland.
Oh,
Royal
please tell
Oak,
me.
Maryland. Royal Oak is an unincorporated community in Maryland. So there you go. You're
I'll
fine.
take it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
It's
Could be anywhere. No, it has to be specific.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on, book.
so there you go. It takes place in Maryland. Perfect. Actually, okay, no. All right, now go to the last page. Is it? Does he just say you've just been erased?
He's just been erased. No.
He said he had to catch his train. Right?
We
That
can
was
go
the-
to Bali someday. Yeah. When? Next life. The next life. That's how we so I guess they're going to Bali at the end of the movie? Is that-
Now, are they supposed to have absolutely zero romantic chemistry in this film?
Yeah.
There was an ending.
Right.
A romantic ending was shot and tested terribly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, but that would have been.
There's
weird.
nothing in this movie to like suggest that like they're together. I remember going to see it in theaters, my grandpa even calling that out, being like,
Yeah.
wait, they're not like a couple in this movie. That's weird.
Well,
Yeah.
what's
Had it been
interesting-
Stallone, it definitely would have been like
Yeah.
a fuck fest. Like it would have been Stallone and
Sharon Stone.
basically Sharon Stone, exactly, like assassins or
Just in the
whatever. It would just
shower.
been like, mhm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the specialist. That's what you're
Yeah.
thinking. It's
That's
just
it,
we need
that's
to
it,
have
yeah.
more shots of my naked body. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
I was gonna say something, and now I'm thinking about is Arnold. Sylvester Stallone naked. You ruined the whole thing.
Again.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so this movie, this movie,
It's a
happened.
fun one. Yeah.
It's
It's perfectly watchable.
It's perfectly
Mhm.
watchable. Vanessa Williams, she's good. There's lots of people in it. Things explode. But I think for all of us, there was one movie that was the best watch. A movie that we all wanted to watch again. A movie we all remembered enjoying. And then watching it again, realizing just how good this movie was. Because we were
Yeah.
talking about it earlier.
Dune
Let's
Part
get-
2.
Yeah.
Let's get back to talking about Enemy of the State. A movie that is, like we were saying at the top, is scarily accurate to where things ended up. But I think like in a movie that is as crowded as this, with as many faces and many characters and many sort of twists and turns and things like that, it's great. Tony Scott, we miss you, Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very sad, what ended up happening with Tony Scott. But that when Tony Scott is Tony Scotting,
10 camera Tony.
Yeah.
just-
Nothing's better.
Uh-huh. Well,
there's just, I mean, I like Spy Game is another movie of his that I'm particularly happy with. And then we were joking, I think we were talking about it on another one of our text threads that we have with some of the RTM guys, but with Ryan, but the movie Unstoppable.
Mhm.
Have you ever seen Unstoppable? Just a simple train movie, just 90 minutes, action, Denzel, Chris Pine, and he nails it. That movie should suck.
He did 2 train movies back to back. He did The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, and then Unstoppable.
That's right. I forgot.
Which I love the original of that movie, but the remake, not great. But man, you go back to his track. Like I always think of back in the day, the BMW films. Oh, they're so fucking good. So good.
He did the one with Gary Oldman, right? Racing.
Yeah. Chase the Devil.
Racing the
2
Devil.
It was The Hire and Beat the Devil. That was it. I mean, what a fucking track record. Man.
I've never seen The Hunger. Never seen The Hunger.
Neither have I. Yeah.
Top Gun, yes. Beverly Hills Cop 2, yes. Revenge, I've only seen once. Kevin Costner movie. It's kind of interesting, sort of dark. Like it looks like a Tony Scott movie. Days of Thunder, amazing. Last Boy Scout. I've always been kind of about that one, but I know Will, you've got
that movie.
Big love.
I like it. Yeah.
True Romance, amazing. Crimson Tide, amazing. The Fan, I remember being very good.
So good. So good.
Enemy of the State, Spy Game, Man on Fire, Dominoes, where he's getting a little bit wonky. Deja Vu. I actually really like Deja Vu. Like,
I don't think I remember it.
It's the
I don't know.
time travel one.
I feel like I've seen it before, but I can't remember.
It's got Val Kilmer in it. It's Denzel. It's got a really complex. It's kind of interesting actually. But man. If Tony Scott had hung out, if we'd have got Tony Scott directed Top Gun Maverick,
definitely would have. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
But now, do you think they would have even approached him to do it, or do you think with Tom Cruise's relationship to Christopher McQuarrie?
Oh no, they had, and it's Joseph Kosinski. So while Chris McQuarrie,
excuse me, yeah.
But no, they were actively in discussion. So when Tony Scott died, that was like all right, that kind of derailed their Top Gun 2 plans in a way.
And
but
Days of Thunder too.
But this, I think, this one though, I'm going to say Enemy of the State. It's
so good.
It's all of his old instincts combined with his newer instincts that he was getting into, timed perfectly with the late 90s and a subject matter. That it's a great action movie. It's a great techno action movie. It's a great political sort of intrigue Washington movie. It's got the spy aspects and everything else. It's got a little bit of No Way Out, which is Gene Hackman again. It's
weirdly like such a, I don't want to say it's like, I hate using the phrase like a dad movie because now I can kind of see it as that. Like going into this fresh, I weirdly remember it being so much more action packed, but it was really not. There was like a couple of car chases here and there. You get the ending scene. It's more of like a political thriller, which now that I'm older, love so much more.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine what this movie would have been if Michael Bay had got a hold of it.
Yeah.
The car, because there's definitely moments like when he's running down the tunnel and the cars are behind him. It's a very Michael Bay-esque shot. You've got some sort of like helicopters and stuff like that, kind of coming in low, but it never goes too far. It just keeps you kind of like on the edge. And the thing about it is, as well, is that especially put yourself in the mindset of the late 90s that we've got like cell phones and we've got some basic internet.
My mindset has never left the late 90s.
But what I mean is like the way that all of the technology that they're deploying against him, it creates a very sort of overwhelming. You're always like, well, shit, where can you go? Because they've got satellite coverage so they can track where your car went. They've got cameras inside everywhere that they can access. So you stop for a gas station, and he made a phone call, and what did this do?
Yeah,
but it's like
some of the tracking is like watching it now. I'm like, it's a little absurd. Like them having the ability to quickly move any satellite, like at the drop of a hat, seems a little bit like a stretch, but you can suspend that disbelief in this movie. Like it just. Because you're like, it's very real.
I had that same thought, but it's also extremely accurate because what the movie shows is what happens now with drones. So you don't need to retask a satellite. You've got a drone remote controlled from a guy in Nevada flying an 8-hour, 10-hour mission around Africa or the Middle East, and then it gets relieved by another guy and another pilot. So they've got this eye in the sky that they can call up at any point nowadays. That is something that exists in today's technology.
Another movie that did that too, weirdly, is the movie Toys, where they have all the children think they're playing video games, but they're actually running like mill sims and flying drones and shit. Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is kind of what I mean is that you're watching this in the late 90s, and it's like you're just sort of overwhelmed as to how's he going to get out of this.
Yeah,
you know,
how am I going to have an affair?
Yeah. I think
it's one.
But even like, so there's a bit of technology, and it's something I'll quickly get into, but it's a bit where Jason Lee drops the sort of the not Game Boy or whatever it is into his bag while he's shopping.
TurboGrafx 16, sure. Yeah.
And they were able to, from the sort of camera view, they were able to create a rotatable image so that they could see what's been put into the bag. Seems ridiculous. On Right This Minute 2 years ago, I featured this new thing from NVIDIA, which basically, if I was sitting in this room at this chair, if you took 4 pictures, in 1 second, it could create a fully realized move your camera everywhere you want to, 3D representation of this space, even to the point of the way that light bounces off something reflective would move the way that it would. So that technology exists now.
In fact, we're using it right now, and Ollie is in a green screen studio.
But this is kind of what I mean is that
wild, man.
It's a movie that, as time has gone on, has got more and more and more credit for. It seems so crazy and out there in the future, and it's like, no, this is exactly what happens.
It's
that
like
technology exists.
It's Simpsons level prediction of this movie. Like watching it, you're just like, oh man, like they fucking nailed it. Well, like 20 some odd years ago.
100%. And in a way, I mean, there's even a line Gene Hackman has in the movie when he's talking about, can you say this word or whatever? And he goes, and that's 20 years ago. And so, well, this movie is 20 years ago. So it's the technology. You can believe that the NSA, is 20 years ahead. It's the same way that, you've got Dreamland, Area 51, is that you've got the jets nowadays, you've got F-22s and F-35s that when I was a teenager, they were talking about. So, there's like a 30-year thing. So that whatever they're doing at Area 51 is 30 years in the future that we will see in the year 2050. And it's just like technology is always doing that. I thought this movie never just goes, just explain it away with technobabble.
Yeah.
That whatever the technobabble is it's there, it's possible, it's scientifically, you could do it if you could do it, and nowadays you can.
Yeah. And it still holds up. Like it does. This movie doesn't feel dated at all. Like,
right.
Sure, the phones they're using, the phones they're using and things like that, but it still feels so like practical and relevant. I
didn't look it up specifically until it came here today to do the podcast, but I was watching the movie going, I mean, this was pre 9/11, right? This is a 90s movie, right? I mean, like, I couldn't pin down, was this 94, 96, 98, 2002? Like it could have been anywhere in that, because you're right. Like it very, very much feels, because it's shot well. It's Tony Scott, of course it is. So it looks good. It looks slick. You're using practical explosions, and like I said, we use a lot of like POV for cameras. It's almost like in the sort of when they're tracking them down, it very much what they sort of ended up doing in the Bourne movies. You've always got that
handheld,
the NSA, and they're like, track this and find that camera or whatever. And I'm like, oh man,
you're so right. The only thing that would really change is instead of satellites, it would just be drone footage. But you kind of disassociate. It doesn't really matter. But like then the technology they have is so wild, where they can like map out the entire building, and they're like, oh, he's jumped to the 15th. Like they just have this, like they got like much like Tony Scott, they have like 10 cameras on him at all times. And he's got a tracking device in his watch, his pen, his shoes, his belt, his shirt collar. Like it's so great. You get that bit with
and they show you that well, like where it is. You've got that. They've taken the pictures of it. They've replaced it. They put it up on screen to constantly remind you they're still tracking him. That like you're never confused as to what's going on. And it's a very, very confusing, because Will Smith is just constantly thrown in the middle of it. It could be so easy to lose track of what's going on. And in the movie,
there's never, especially with so many characters too. Like you have John Voight's whole team, and you have his like computer department, the hackers, and then you have his like military department, Scott Conn, James Conn's son.
Yeah.
Crossover. And then Jake Busey, excuse me.
Yeah.
And then you have like the fucking nerds. You got Jack Black, Jamie Kennedy, and Seth Green. And then there's one more guy too. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but I know.
Oh yeah,
a guy that's not as famous as everybody else.
But kind of looks like he's somewhere in between Seth Green and Jamie Kennedy.
Yeah.
But like, I love all the like I love
it works, and it's quick, and the banter, and it's cutting backwards and forwards, and the things that they're saying is like being represented by what you're seeing on screen. Like, I mean, you must have for a minute just like, Will, I mean, you and I, we talk about this, but you know, when you're watching something going, how the fuck did they shoot that? Because they're cutting between, let's say that Jason Lee scene where he's running, he's going through buildings, he's on a bike, and we're seeing chase on the road, but then we cut to satellite shot. So I'm like, did they have a chopper up there? And then the footage that they're using, you know, like they've got head down shots, and this, they've played out an action scene from the satellite view, and they're cutting it together with what they're shooting on location with stuntman, and then cutting it together with actor. And I'm like, wow.
His editor must have looked at these storyboards and said, Tony, you're out of your fucking mind. Like this had to have been storyboarded like down to the detail.
And then Jerry Bruckheimer put a pile of cocaine in front of the editor, and the editor just went, all right, we got this.
Famously said, hold my 8-ball, and he just went to fucking town. Yeah.
But that's kind of what I mean. We're talking about how this movie is like, it could have taken shortcuts. It could have taken technobabble. It could have, and they do it all for real. They make it look real. It feels real. Even like you know, they explain away that they've got a digital camera with a prime lens. So it means that any kind of zooming they do, you know, it's going to be in focus. And I go, that's just that any other film would have gone, there's a camera, and anyone else that watched it gone, oh, that wouldn't work. You can't do that because the lens isn't going to work. But they go, no, prime lens, digital camera.
And this movie only had a $90 million budget. It came out 4 years after, or excuse me, 2 years after.
Just a couple of years, yeah. And it's you're right, there you go. Mm-hmm. They're very close. They're like cousins, but also you can see just exactly like what I was saying regarding Eraser is put it in the hands of someone like Tony Scott. Eraser, directed by Tony Scott, would have been a fucking banger.
Yeah,
you know, it would have been a banger. Not that Eraser isn't a banger, but you know what I mean. It is not enemy of the state.
It would have been that next level. Yeah. It's like my two takeaways from this movie is like the biggest one is I hear this criticism a lot of 90s action movies, which is like, oh, well, you know, you couldn't do those action movies today because it'd be too easy for, you know, like Die Hard. Everybody's got a cell phone now. So now it'd be like easier to do all that. So all the difficulties they run into, you couldn't do action movies in the 90s the way you do today because everyone's got so much access to technology. I think this movie proves like it just makes everything more stressful. Like, because Will Smith cannot hide. And so it's something, even in a script I'm working on, it's an idea I pitched it to Ollie like about a year or so ago that deals a lot with like modern technology and like how this actually makes like action movie situations way more difficult for the main characters. And it's like way more fun. The other thing is, though, there is a bit of tech silliness going on. Like, the store cameras, those don't have prime lenses. So when they're like, okay, zoom in and enhance, that's a little bit like, guys, you can't enhance pixels that aren't there. Like, you could do AI today, but it's going to add like 3 extra fingers and, you know, turn the bag into Jello. It's like, okay, that's
not admissible either.
Says Will, the guy that just canceled his Blu-ray orders of True Lies and stuff like that because they've used AI to try and upscale. No, that's what I'm saying is his exact point is that you can try, but it's not gonna.
No, you can't replace what's not
real
there.
Information. No. So there's a bit of silliness going on to some, and also how competent the government agency is. Like they are so effective. I'm just like No, it would take them like 3 weeks to like do any one of these things, even though all the technology is possible. It's not due to tech limitations. It's just due to like people are like, I don't want to track this guy today. I got to clock out for lunch. You know, it's just so there's a bit of competency where it's like, okay, they are not that effective because they're human beings and nobody's on the ball that much.
John Voight certainly looks like he's having a good time in this movie. It does very much fit with his politics. He's playing his own wet dream in this movie.
He thought he was the hero. Yeah, he was like, I'm obviously the good guy in this movie.
Did you look up and see who was supposed to play Gene Hackman's role?
Hackman.
No.
Yeah.
John Travolta in drag.
Better. They wanted Sean Connery.
Let me guess. He didn't get it. He didn't understand.
All right. He's like, he read the script. He's like, fuck no. Because you made a phone call. But yeah.
You're the man now, dog.
And they were supposed to do,
movie.
they were supposed to do The Matrix together too. It's so funny. Like Sean Connery was just like, I'm good. But then there was The Rock 96?
6, I think.
Yeah.
I had the
because it's prior to Armageddon. So
Mel Gibson and Tom Cruise were both considered for the part that Will Smith plays. I can see Tom Cruise doing this movie. He was busy doing Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, but Will Smith's got this this vulnerability to him in this role. Like he's he's so great in the lawyer role, like as the prosecutor, the lawyer. But he's got
labor
this
lawyer.
Sorry?
The labor lawyer.
Labor lawyer, yeah. But he's he struggles with his relationship at home because he cheated on his wife with Zoe Kravitz's mother. Lisa
Bonet. Looks exactly like
it's
Zoe Kravitz
wild, dude.
Yeah,
it's wild.
It's like a time travel device. It's like deja vu.
Yeah,
it's nuts. Yeah.
Now, if it was CCH Pounder, I mean,
God.
because you made a phone call.
You and Glenn Howerton have got to compete for
God. What secrets are you running for the NSA? I'm not doing it any justice.
Yeah, look up Glenn Howerton's CCH Pounder impression. Oof, it is stunning. I was on the floor. I was like, my God. That's
subsequently look up Caitlin Olsen Barack Obama impression.
Now another thing I really like about this movie, that I think again helps sort of elevate it, is that the MacGuffin of the whole movie is that there's this tape. They've got a tape of John Voight murdering a congressman or a senator or something like that. And that 2/3 of the way through the movie, the disc gets destroyed at the end. They lost the disc. So then it's like, holy shit, how are you going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And it's like, so they set up this sort of moment to get sort of Gene Hackman to incriminate himself on tape, which then gets worse because the guys get captured. And then you're like, well, how are they going to get out of this? And that's when he brings it back around to that Tom Sizemore thing. And again, it's kind of like the thing that it was planted about 45 minutes before. It's like kind of a throwaway line. It's like, why did you do it? He goes, well, because you told me to, as in like, trust me. And so when it gets to that moment where he's twisted, he said something, and he immediately realizes, all right, go with this. And I'm like, this movie's really good.
Get that bit where he again repeats, you're either incredibly smart or incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
And then Gene Hackman eats a pretzel.
Yeah, but it's just that little thing of like going, instead of it just being, oh, just do this because, and you know what, we'll get the character in Vanessa Williams to sit in a scene later and we'll explain it and we'll just, no.
There's another bit too that's wildly unbelievable to me that I just clocked it the second time watching. When all the news is at the location where the murder happened, and Jason Lee is across the river recovering like the video camera, and one of John Voight's guys dressed like a park ranger with the binoculars immediately identifies the year, make, and model and license plate of the truck that he's in. How would you know what year that he's like? It's a 74 Ford Bronco color. It's like,
just really
unless you're a super fan of that truck, I guess.
Yeah, I had the same thought actually.
That's so specific.
He bangs up the binos, and as the truck's driving away, I'm like, the first thing I would have said was the license plate, so before I lose sight of it. But he's like, he spends 35 seconds going, like, he's like 74 Bronco. It's got its left tire is a little, it's brown, it's off brown. And I was like, just give him the license plate number. They'll find the fucking car.
Yeah, clearly this guy hasn't worked on his shocks in a while. He could use a new paint job. Like, Gary, stay on task.
I thought that was great. But then that kicks off that whole bit with Jason Lee, in his apartment. He calls up our favorite guy, also from True Lies. Oh my God, I always forget his name.
Oh yes.
That guy. Because it sounds scary.
Yeah. It's like now he's like a director now. Yeah. And we brought him up in a previous episode.
Yeah.
But he calls him. And like it kicks off
this guy works for some like right-wing news media.
No, Left Wing.
Left, excuse me. Sorry. I'm just looking at my Twitter feed. But yeah, like he's in his apartment. They knock on the door. His phone doesn't work. His fax machine doesn't work. He like peeks out the window. It just kicks off this like crazy paranoia sequence. It's so good.
It's not paranoia
chase.
when they really are watching you.
No, but I mean, you feel that like
and
I think unease. You're like, oh my god, they got the guns, and you know that these guys they're not playing by the rules at this point. They're not on a training sim. Yeah,
because getting Jason Lee, who's a face that people recognize, and then we put him into the movie, and then you give us this chase scene, and it's going well. And he's always just and he's heroic music, pancake the guy, and it really does add.
That shot is crazy too.
Yeah, but it adds some stakes into this movie. It's like, all right, there's our everyman. The government's trying to get him.
So good.
He's doing everything really well. He's making smart decisions. And now he's a stain on the road.
Well, that's because he's famously a skateboarder. He's not really good on a bicycle. Yeah. They really missed that opportunity there.
that would have actually been awesome to see him skating away from
like kick flipping and shit. Yeah, sure.
But this is kind of what I mean is that like that then really puts the stakes on us. For Will Smith, that you're like, oh wow, okay,
yeah,
right. These guys,
he doesn't know that he's got Chekhov's Atari Lynx or TurboGrafx 16, whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah,
I had one of those too.
Yeah, dude.
Oh no, the Atari Lynx was the wide one. It was
Atari Lynx was amazing. My neighbor.
I thought it was that if you guys remember the Phantom Menace toys when they came out, there was like a little they came with like a little thing that looked like that, and you put voice chips in, and it would read you lines from Star Wars, and you'd be like, "Wow, episode 1's gonna be great." It looked exactly like one of those things.
I only read the novelization.
Cogburn reads. Yeah, this movie's great.
Oh God.
Yeah, yeah. And then he meets Watto. He's a junk dealer.
He's Targaryen. Jedi mind tricks don't work on Targaryen.
Watto owns some white slaves.
We're gonna power past it.
Are you doing John Voight right now?
I'm reading from his dream journal.
Yeah, no, let's just the more I'm talking about this movie, the more I realize that Enemy of the State is a very, very well executed movie.
It's so good, yeah.
And it makes sense now that I was saying that Aaron Sorkin and Tony Gilroy took a pass at this script, because the script does connect and make sense, and it's grounded, and and as we've talked about, but as time has passed, it's a movie that not only holds up, but holds up as well as being regarded as a movie that very, very accurately talked about what came out with Snowden and what came out with what the NSA was doing and all that sort of stuff. Around the same time that Winter Soldier came out, everyone's like, since 2001, the government's been inside everything. They're everything. They're listening to everything, and you really So I think that this movie is. I'm so glad that you guys brought it for this week, because I had sort of forgotten, not that it was a good movie, but just how good.
Yeah.
How well.
I was saying the same thing too. I watch this movie like every couple of years. If it's streaming on something, I'll throw it on, because I remember like, oh yeah, it's much like The Jackal. Like, it's not a movie I watch often.
Jackal.
But
I
like
The
Jackal too. Yeah,
it's great. I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, it just fucking goes down smooth. I know what I'm gonna get, but then I always forget how good it is. Yeah,
Jack Black in both of those movies. That's the connection.
Correct. Yeah, it's part of my box set.
That's the secret. You got to put Jack Black in your 90s paranoid action thriller.
Jack Black in The Jackal. Jack Black in Demolition Man. Famously, he's in that movie for one scene because I think he got too stoned and forgot to show up on set. It's a good story.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I saw Jack Black. He was in an episode of X-Files with Giovanni Ribisi. And he was
also in Biodome with Kyle Gass.
Is he?
Yeah. Anyway,
Kylie Minogue is in that movie. Wow, we've done 6 degrees of Biodome. But yeah, no, it's like this is what I'm saying. So
it's just a good throw it on. Yeah,
the Patriot Act, Edward Snowden, and then the NSA's PRISM surveillance program. The film has been noteworthy for being ahead of its time regarding issues of national security and privacy. And It's wild. And this is a Tony Scott action movie.
Has Tony Gilroy done any other like? I was gonna say, has Tony Gilroy done any other like famous political, commentary shows recently? I can't think of.
Can't think of any. Andor, Beirut.
No, nothing.
Rogue One.
Yeah.
Tony Gilroy. It's
well, I guess he got over it.
I do love Michael Clayton.
What is interesting about this movie, though, is that it's very, very much shot in Baltimore. In fact, a lot of it is shot around Maryland. A lot of it's shot. It's a very, very Maryland shot movie. And the more I got into it, I was actually quite happy about this, because when we get to Eraser, that is mostly shot in New York and California. And then Hairspray is shot in Toronto. The movie that starts with Good Morning Baltimore is not in any way.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like everything in that movie was shot on a soundstage,
But there is something that we like to do on this movie podcast. It's not just talk about the movies that are amazing, like Hairspray, or like Enemy of the State, or which one's better or worse. It's also like, which one do we feel best represents a state? Now, when we first said we were doing Maryland, I think the joke was, the box set of season 1 of The Wire, and Bish Bash Bosh will be done. But what do you guys think? Well, I'm throwing this one out to you. Walking into this one, I was convinced I had an open and shut case. I was convinced that I had got it with Hairspray. It was so intrinsically talking about Baltimore, it getting into race issues and history and everything else. But I'm not sure if I'm right anymore. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think Hairspray was the first movie I watched, and it opens with that song. And again, like I mentioned, anytime when I was telling people that we were doing Maryland, usually the first movie that came to mind was Hairspray. It wasn't like, oh, you should watch Enemy of the State or you should watch Eraser.
Well, I think
they also didn't have the
people
Wikipedia
go
page
Maryland, then they go Baltimore is the only place they can remember from it, and then they immediately remember the song from the
which
beginning.
Which is fine. Yeah, true.
But that's because that's what my brain did too. Then I'm like, I know.
So you're saying if Eraser opened with the musical number, we'd be having a different conversation.
Good morning, Maryland. I think, 100%.
It's going to be erased. Yeah.
Better movie.
Much better movie.
No arguments from me.
But no, so sorry, just to wrap up my thought, like I watched, throwing on Hairspray and watching that, I'm like, oh, fucking nothing's going to top this. But then you get into the nitty gritty of like that political thriller where it goes, it's just all over Maryland, all over mostly Baltimore, but I think Enemy of the State is, for me, way more Baltimore than any of these other two movies.
It does give a lot more Maryland than I was expecting. Yeah. It does stay there a lot, talk about a lot, set places. Will Smith lives there. It's giving us, there are lakes and there are trees and there is industrial and there's all this other stuff. And then it talks about its proximity to Washington as well. That I'm like, all right, okay. I mean, Will, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Eraser is the clear winner. Just no two ways about it. No,
it's the only movie where they say Baltimore twice.
Exactly.
And the
can't take that away.
And then,
exactly. I'm kind of on the same page. Especially Enemy of the State. I think not only it being set there and the characters living there, you see more of it, but what puts it over the top for me is the filming of it there. Is like, so now it's like the actual locations, it's the actual Maryland. On top of like the story is set there. It's important that it's set there because of its proximity to Washington
and NSA and everything. Yeah, you're 100% right. You can't
see now. I agree with everything Will said, and I feel the exact same way. However, I think you have to, if you give it up to how important Hairspray is to, I can't believe I'm going to say it. I think Hairspray is the most, even though none of it's shot there, story-wise, I think as a people would probably, embrace Hairspray as this is our Maryland. This is our Baltimore, Maryland film.
Oh, no. And I like that because I would say that, I'd say that Marylandites, because I have no idea. People from Maryland. Enemy of the State definitely takes place in Maryland. And it's talking a little bit more about the larger stakes of government and surveillance. And it's not so much like, so, I mean, like, and then Will Smith lives there because he's a labor lawyer and he's probably a lobbyist and, you know, has to sort of deal with, deal with DC and stuff like that. And I'm like, there's more to Maryland than just being a suburb of Washington, DC, if you know what I mean. So I like that, Ryan. Okay, cool. You've swayed me a little bit because you're right that Hairspray, while, you know, it's not telling like a truth, it is telling a piece of history, you know, civil rights and things like that. And that Baltimore is very much, you know, a melting pot of different people and different races and different backgrounds, that it kind of gets into that a little bit more, that I think that, yeah, I think if you're from Maryland, you'd go, this movie more represents who I am than, let's say, the CIA or the NSA trying to kill me.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know, unless you work for the CIA or unless the NSA is actively trying to kill you. We don't know.
Just
shit. I mean,
just checking.
I think if I absorbed more of the story as I was watching Hairspray, I might understand some of your points, but it's so bounced off me. I just
think from like a cultural standpoint, I think it's a far more Maryland movie than, say, Enemy of the State. I think it just would come up in more conversations. You know? So I have to begrudgingly pick Hairspray.
Yeah,
much to my great chagrin.
Man, this is why I like getting into these conversations, because I think I'm going one way, then I think I'm going another way, and then you redirect me with, because that's a very good point. Because I'd say like, you know, if it was literally just a graph or ticks, Enemy of the State's got this one.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm with you that the story of Hairspray that Will managed to miss.
Was there a story? I think it was just people singing for 2 hours.
Like the whole of Enemy of the State could have just been set in DC too. You know, like
that is true.
You know, because they're so adjacent. But I don't know. You can't take the Baltimore out of Hairspray. You'd lose that whole first song.
Good morning, Poughkeepsie. Yeah, it's not working. All right. So, Will, what about you? I mean, are you still just going to go and read
Eraser?
Yeah.
He's reading the book right now.
You guys make your decision. I'm going to see chapter 3. Lee Cullen was sitting in her apartment, dialing clear as Isaac's. I don't know who these characters are. No, I think I agree. Like, it's, you know, the fact that
you have to. You can go with whatever you want, mate.
Well, I think the fact that, you know, as they're known, Lesbians have embraced Hairspray. I'm willing to go with like that general feeling. That does make a lot of sense to me.
Wow.
I was thinking as like a people, as a culture, I think it's embraced more as like, this. I could see it being like, this is our movie, you know?
I'm with you. I can't believe that one.
Yeah. I hate that I'm saying it.
Yeah, I know. And the fact is, of all people, it was you talking about Hairspray. I was like, you're like almost the most cynical person on this podcast. And
I'm guaranteed. Yeah.
You emoted and everything. That okay, I'm with you on this one. Are we in agreement? I can't believe it. But there you go. All right, then officially. The movie here at the United States of a Movie podcast to represent the state of Maryland, at least until Eraser 2 comes out. The movie that defines that state is 2007's Hairspray, written and choreographed by Adam Shankman, starring Nikki Blonsky, John Travolta, Christopher Walken, Michelle Pfeiffer, James Marsden, Queen Latifah, etc., etc. This movie is not available for streaming. Anyway, interestingly, real quick side stuff. Right, so I texted you guys that I have an online video library, which I honestly resisted because Mrs. made me do it, because she's like, we need to get rid of all these Blu-rays and shit. She's not wrong, but she's also totally wrong because Will, who literally is sitting probably right next to a wall of Blu-rays right now.
All of them Eraser.
All of them.
Just different copies of
different
Eraser.
cuts,
I'm like that guy on TikTok who has nothing but like Titanic VHS.
So I have my Vudu library. It wasn't in my Vudu library. But then when I found the movie on Vudu, it goes, well, you've paid for this, so do you want to watch it? I'm like, yes. So it's kind of the thing is, it's something that Will has talked about, and it is a very true thing that none of the stuff you buy digitally do you actually own. And they can, at any point, if they want to, because of some sort of laws or licensing or whatever, remove what you've purchased and not give you the money back. that was so. This is a week. It was quite a frustrating week where I had to rent movies that I own on Blu-ray or movies that I have bought before, and it was just one of those random situations. But it turns out I do still technically own it. Guys, when it came to Maryland, there were some other movies.
We had some others.
I'm trying to Patriot Games.
The Blair Witch was another one that came up. The Blair
Witch movies. I was like the Sum of All Fears. I was kind of interested to maybe throw a little bit of Jack Ryan in there. You know, Mrs. and I have got we like Ben Affleck.
You're always trying to throw a Jack Ryan movie in there.
Hey, why wouldn't I? Cry Baby, you mentioned that one as well already. Serial Mom.
Oh, that
almost went with that. I'm like, that movie, I haven't seen it since I saw it the first time back when it came out, but that movie is...
It's back when Kathleen Turner was like weirdly a fucking smoke show.
Oh, she's not weird, right? Kathleen Turner was an total. I
mean, it was Serial Mom and Baby Blues just did it for me. I don't know what it was.
It's Undercover Blues.
Undercover Blues, excuse me.
Yeah. But Will, have you ever seen Serial Mom?
I don't think I have.
It's very dark.
I could be wrong.
Isn't that also a John Waters movie?
She's like, I'm gonna see. She's like, she's just like the typical suburban mum, but she's also a complete psychopathic serial killer. And it's like, it is John Waters.
That's what I thought. So Ricky
sounds like
Ricky Lake's in that too, right?
I'm trying to look at it right now. But
is that the one where Divine plays like the giant baby? Which one's that one?
But highly recommend that one, Will. If you've never seen it, it's strangely dark.
I'm definitely going to need to dive into more John Waters movies because it was just announced he's doing a movie with Aubrey Plaza, who is like the best casting choice.
Oh, hell yeah.
For a John Waters movie like ever. So I'm going to actually need to dive. Like I said, I think I've only seen like one or two of his movies. I've definitely seen Pink Flamingos. I think I saw another one.
I don't think I've seen any of them, to be honest.
You ever seen Cry Baby?
I've never seen Cry
Johnny
Baby.
Depp?
Yeah. The documentary about Johnny Depp's actual life these days?
Yeah. Wedding Crashers was another one.
Yeah.
Which because they go off.
Yeah, that does. Yeah.
The Maryland that takes place on a place in Maryland. There's a few. I thought that's Maryland was kind of fun.
There's the 1940 film Maryland.
There we go. It's also a 9-hour musical.
I'm sure. Yeah, Will owns that one. Gods in general. So yeah, I'm interested. Because I was.
I mean, True Lies.
You were going to do the Blair Witch Project right up until Will found out that I'd already seen it. He's like,
yeah, we wanted to give Ollie a good spooking.
And I just bought it on Blu-ray too. That's why I was happy with this week's movies. I owned most of them on Blu-ray, so I was like, yeah, this is great.
But he didn't see Blair Witch 2: Book of Shadows, so.
Oh, that will scare you for completely different reasons.
I've seen Blair Witch 2. I saw Blair Witch 2 in theaters.
That is depressing.
I'm sorry. I think you're eligible for compensation of some kind.
Yeah, and it was that movie was in theaters. Wow.
Yeah, and it was sold out.
Yeah, were you in Singapore when that came out?
No. I think I was in England when I saw that one. I just remember the theater being rammed, like absolutely rammed, and it opened up with like a Marilyn Manson song.
Yeah, and then it's before the internet really knew things could be bad.
Yeah,
but it came up as a movie. Blair Witch 2 is weird because it's a movie that acknowledges the first movie is a movie.
Yeah. It's not
interesting idea, but
yeah, it's not like I just remember thinking like the plot of that movie is obvious. The plot of that movie is who are the people that found the footage from the first movie, and like obviously you follow them investigating. Like that's obviously the sequel, and they didn't do that.
And the third one does this thing. It's like a cyclical loop. Yeah.
There are also these Step Up movies. The first 2 Step Up movies apparently might be
that's that we could have done all the Step Up. Not Step Up 3 the streets or 2 the streets.
I've heard Step Up 3D is really good actually.
It's the best of all the Step Ups.
We could have
Step Up China is really good.
Oh shit. We could have done the documentary Bronies, the extremely unexpected adult fans of My Little Pony. Fucking that would have
Cecil B. Demented, The Pacifier, also directed by we had the Adam Shafer, who directed Hairspray, apparently also directed The Pacifier, that rite of passage that all future action stars need to make a kid-friendly movie where they're looking after children.
Ooh, Ladder 49?
Yeah,
So yeah,
best genre movies is big muscly guy looking after kids. That's definitely
Kindergarten Cop.
best genre.
So yeah, so there we go. Look, I'm going to cross it off our list there. Maryland, you're done. You did pretty well. I can't believe Hairspray won. That's insane. Don't worry, we'll forget that Hairspray won within a week because none of us can remember which one ended up winning.
Ever.
I forgot it won just now, so
But
way ahead of you guys.
we still have a number of states still to go, guys. So where are we going next? We've already done Missouri, haven't we? We did Missouri.
Yeah.
Cross that one out.
Remember I had that great miserable joke?
Now I remember, and I'm miserable even remembering it. Okay, so we ready? We're going to do the random pen selection as we've been doing for the recent weeks. Let's see. Oh, shit. Ooh, no. Okay, yeah, we're pointing at... Okay, we're doing it. Alabama, y'all.
Fuck, how have we not done that yet?
I know.
Who said Forrest Gump?
Oh, I said, how have we not done that yet?
So there we go. So the state that we're going to next week, that is going to be Alabama. The state that we have just taken down is the state of Maryland. Hairspray is our champion, which means at this point, it's time for me to just say thank you very much for supporting the show. If you're watching us right now on YouTube, do us a favor, drop in the comments to tell us all the reasons why Will is wrong about Hairspray, Twister, and especially when it comes to Major Payne as well. That'd be important.
Come for me, nerds.
Yeah,
I'm ready for y'all.
To all our listeners at the NSA, thanks for stopping by.
I didn't mean to Google that thing that I Googled. That was just accidental. That was a typo. If you are listening to us on podcasts, if you're on Apple, please, make sure you're liking and subscribing, sharing, rating. These are all things that really, really help us. Jump on our Facebook page, the United States of a Movie. Slowly, this page is growing, which is great. It's always nice to interact with people talking about movies. I also do movies on Monday mornings on my page as Ollie Pettigrew or That Englishman in Texas, usually talking about movies. And I tell you what, guys, the last couple of videos that I've done, 250,000 people, like interactions. People are still getting into the comments section about...
All for talking about how great Ernest is.
It's honestly, you'd be surprised how that Ernest...
All Ernest, all the time.
I'm telling you, man.
So we're always looking to talk about movies there. You can always find Will on TikTok, Instagram, things like that, is entitled Willennial. Will can often be found talking movies, all things movies, and also picking things off from his movie selection to recommend movies to you, so you can find him there. Ryan likes to design awesome, cool things, t-shirts, mugs, movie posters, really, really cool movie posters that you're going to want to get put on your wall, and you can find that at Threadless, Rhino Digital, RYNO Digital. Make sure you tune in next week, because we are going to be figuring out just the movie that boils down Alabama, but from me, from Ryan, and from Will. It's time for us to just say thank you very much for joining us for this episode of the United States of a Movie podcast.